Hello, and welcome to episode 103 of Flix in the Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the clown prince of podcasts, Alessandro Bailey. Say hello, Al.
If it is to be said, so I shall.
All right. Also joining us for the first time, you may recognize him from his appearance on the Spinchoon sports show, Gary Gurecki. Say hello, Gary.
You want to know how I got these podcasts?
On this week's episode, perfect. See, I like it. I like it already. Al, you've been replaced. On this week's episode,
I'm the Joker.
Wow. We have trailers. We check in on what we're watching. We have fun and games, all before diving into our flick of the week, Joker. But first, Al, what are you drinking?
What am I and Gary and not Anthony drinking? We are drinking Two Roads, Too Juicy, New England IPA. Is that like a Too Fast, Too Furious type of thing? So. Or?
Did they use the numbers?
Hope not.
No, unfortunately, it's the Two Roads with a TWO as well as the Juicy.
They somehow managed to put an 8 in it.
Yeah, the fate of the Too Juicy IPA.
There you go.
It is 8.2% alcohol by volume. It says to keep it juicy and enjoy it immediately, which that's working out for Gary. Here's to taking the road less traveled in life and in beer.
Short and sweet.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was not able to pick this one up beforehand, so you guys let me know how it was.
I tried so hard, damn it.
I know you did.
It's not fair. I picked the only Connecticut beer, and I was literally in a liquor store when Al texted me. So it was just like, wow, what are the odds? So I had the pick of the litter, but, some of that New York stuff, it doesn't make it out here,
It's okay, man. I mean, no matter what you say, it's Al's fault. So, that's fine.
No, it is. I gave him a selection, and I figured, he'll definitely be able to get that one because he's in Connecticut, just like Two Roads.
Yeah.
And you failed to give me one.
All right, well, let's cheers and have some, because this smells delightful from, even 5 feet away, so. I'm just going to cheers myself, I guess.
There you go.
I'm not there.
For those of you listening at home, Gary's calling in on Skype, so you might have some interesting, different versions of recordings, but we're going to make it work. We're just going to stick with it.
Yeah, Anthony, you're really missing out. This is pretty...
you know what, Al? You know what? I don't want to hear that. I tried to find the juiciest thing in my fridge, and that was this Julius from Treehouse, and it is
also
delightful.
A great choice.
It is quite good. I'm yelling at you because you didn't send me one of those, but I did get 2 of these so that I can give you one that we can do on a show, and then I drank both of them. So, sorry about that. So, we're even.
So, we are even. Okay.
We're even.
Gary, since you have had the beer that I am having and we're talking about for the show, what are your thoughts? First impressions?
Very full-bodied. I think I've had it once or twice before. It prices me out sometimes if I'm going to spend $17 or $18 for a 4-pack. I'll probably just get Sip of Sunshine, or I'll try Lord Hobo, or something else that's around.
Lord Hobo.
They're quite good. They do a lot of different beers, but, Honey Spot, some of them aren't my favorites. This is a very good beer. It's a very good double IPA. If anything, it's a little tinny. It's a little metallic with the first sip.
Are you drinking it out of a glass or out of the can?
I did pour it, I'm just saying.
Okay, because I'm not getting the tinniness. I am getting that there's not only one juice, but 2 juicies in this. It's very light, like pale straw color. It's a little hazy, as a good New England IPA should be. Not a ton of head to speak of, but the hop aroma is incredibly strong. Even when I poured it and had it sitting on the desk 3 feet away from me, I was like, I could catch it wafting towards me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a good
nostrils.
One. No, but in a good way.
So, Gary, what's your favorite style of beer?
Definitely IPAs, stout as well, a nice barley wine. I'll drink anything that's over 7%, pretty much.
nice barley wine, okay.
6.7.
All right.
Anything else seems like a wasted time. Harpoon sessions, I don't really do them. Especially we're doing the Too Juicy. There is a session version that's little juicy.
That's great.
That's 5%.
It's just a little juicy?
So it's 5%, so it barely kind of reaches the threshold for me. Little Juicy is a pretty good session as far as things go. But yeah, like I said, stouts, IPAs, double IPAs, all day.
What about breweries? You got a favorite?
I'm a big Lagunitas guy.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, good choice.
Really like most of the things they do.
Little something.
Yeah, a little something, little something extra. They did some variations on that a while
Lagunitas
back.
sucks.
Lagunitas sucks. The brown sugar substitute. Sierra Nevada, they never disappoint me really. Every time I get a Sierra Nevada 12er mixed variety pack, something like that, makes me happy. If I'm a little, light in the wallet, I'll get a Magic Hat variety pack. I'm looking for value and nice hop.
Okay. I feel like everything you just said could have been like names of horses in a horse race, and I don't want to be there.
Oats and barley.
What you brought a couple of good beers to Alex's a couple weeks ago when we were there.
Yeah.
What was the one? The one of them I really liked that I tried. Was the one with like the black? Was it like the black hog or
IPA?
Yeah.
Super good.
Black Hog
that's
IPA.
One of their more popular beers. It's really a fridge filler. It's about 6.5%. If you just wanted to have something on hand or something like that, it's not a bad way to go. They did just switch to 4-pack tall boys, which is a little upsetting considering I would rather just pay the extra $1 for the 6-pack and have the 2 extra beers as opposed to 4-pack tall boys in general. And then their second, I would say most popular beer is the Granola Nut Brown. So there's really not enough brown ales in the world. That's one of them.
I agree. We did, the hazelnut brown,
yes.
The hazelnut nectar brown from Rogue. That was really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we did a brown from Cyprus, I think.
We might have done that as well. And Newberg's brown ale is really good.
For sure. So, for the listeners that don't know you, and honestly, this is the first time that I'm meeting Gary as well. Why don't you give us a little bit about you and how you and Al met?
Getting to know you. Al is a very good friend of my very good friend.
I thought that was a joke.
Alex Firestone. So we are mutual friends.
That's friend of the podcast, Alex Firestone.
Naturally.
You listening, buddy? So we probably met at Alex's house, unless Al came to Quinnipiac once before, but...
I was going to say, it was either one of the visits to Quinnipiac or it was Alex's 21st, would have been the first time we met.
Either way, it was booze-fueled.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it was... No, you know what? It must have been at Quinnipiac before the 21st, because if it was at the 21st, I probably wouldn't remember meeting you, because I don't remember anything past 10:30 p.m.
Very drunk. It was very drunk. He got a keg of Shock Top. I've never been at a party with a keg of Shock Top.
Yes, there was a keg of Shock Top for Alex's 21st birthday.
Oh my!
Hey, have a Shock Top.
The party was supposed to start at 6. We opened the keg at 4:30. Yeah, so you know how that night was going to go because I overindulged.
Classic Al. So this is no accident. You wanted to be on this Joker episode.
Yes,
so bad.
When was this excitement before the movie that you wanted to be on it, or was this after you watched it?
Oh, it was before. I
mean,
it's a big thing culturally speaking, and it's a pseudo Batman movie. You know, I mean, anything that's Joker is just spin off of Batman, and that's like the big three pretty much. Whenever you make a superhero movie, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, those are the 3 biggest properties and have the biggest name recognition pretty much before 1999.
Yeah.
2007 or whatever, whatever you want to tie it back to, just...
Right. Those are the ones that are getting people excited.
Well, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, it was Alex's birthday, and we were both in visited. He had a little party at his house. And while we were there, Gary goes, "Oh, are you guys doing Joker?" I said, "Yeah, I think we're doing it this week because I thought you were coming back Sunday, the day after we were hanging out." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I think we're doing it this week." He goes, "Can I be on the show?" I said, "Well, yeah, no one else has claimed it. Go for it." A few days before my brother then was upset because I didn't invite him. And I was like, well, Gary got in ahead of it and claimed it. So you get El Camino next week, man.
Yeah. That's right.
I feel like I have a lot to say about the movie. The podcast will decide that.
This is going to be a long episode.
It's going to be long.
Good. Also, we're coming off a large hiatus, which we probably should mention. We're sorry for that, guys, because we had an episode lined up before the hiatus that we didn't record. We did not tell anyone the hiatus was coming.
We absolutely did. We said it at the end of the episode.
Did we?
Yeah, it's fine. Everybody knows. It's good. We're good. We're in the clear on this one. But I am back. I was away. Joker came out while I was away, and it was released in Italy as well, and I was just like, part of me wanted to just go and see it and not understand what was happening, but I waited.
Oh yeah, because it would have been in Italian. That would have been great.
English, and I didn't understand what was happening.
This is going to be great. But before we get into Joker, let's talk about some news and nuggets. And while we're on the topic of Batman, Joker, all that jazz, Zoe Kravitz cast as Catwoman in The Batman. I'm very excited about this. I think she's tremendous.
I have not seen her in too much other than the Fantastic Beasts movie. So, I mean, obviously, I'm aware of her, but that's really the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head that I've actually seen her in.
Big Little Lies. This ties into what we've watched or what we're watching. I actually finished the second season of that a few weeks ago. She's very good in that show.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a new Catwoman anyway. I think, the Selena Kyle that we got even in The Dark Knight Rises wasn't my favorite either way. So it's been a real long time for this character to get, a proper showing and to have her be more part of the movie as opposed to just showing up on a motorbike and shooting Bane into a wall.
Right.
Would you say that Halle Berry was not a proper showing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
What if we can get back Miss Pfeiffer?
Michelle Pfeiffer?
Oh, yeah, back to Pfeiffer. Oh, for sure. That's the best portrayal of Catwoman I think we've had, other than anybody who's seen, Batman the Animated Series or even the Arkham games are very cool.
Yeah, that's true.
But to get that cinematically, a woman in leather with a whip, sure, great.
Yeah.
So you are just blotting out the Halle Berry one. It just didn't happen.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, sticking to his story, I appreciate that.
Honesty time, though. Did anybody see it?
I actually have seen it once.
I have seen it.
Oh, I'm the only one that hasn't. Okay. I wasn't expecting it to go that way. No, I didn't see it. You
haven't had, just a free afternoon to be like, I'm not doing anything.
No, it seems like it might be the perfect movie for a plane ride. But
no, it's not good.
It hasn't happened there either.
No, this is certifiable bad movie night. This isn't plain movie.
All right, so I had mentioned in the past that we had been to a few bad movie nights with a friend of the show, Jesse, and I believe that might have been one of the first ones they did. I wasn't at that though, unfortunately, but that would have made the movie enjoyable. His bad movie nights are epic.
For anyone who's read on the Spinchoon, Anthony has his series of plane movies where he watches a movie on a plane, and being on a plane can raise its score slightly. This is too bad to be dragged up by the plane. This is a full-on bad movie night movie.
All right, I'm putting it on the list now. The next time I'm on a flight, I'm gonna make this movie available to me, and we'll see what happens.
I'll write you up. There's a good basketball scene. It's very Daredevil, 2003.
Well, it's the same time period. It was 2003, 2004, one of those years. Because I think I saw it in probably 2004, 2005. It was on HBO. It was one of those it's Friday night. You don't have any plans. You're just flipping through channels. Nothing's on, and it's oh, that's coming on in 5 minutes. I don't know. I might as well put it on. At least Halle Berry's attractive, and while she is attractive, it does not make up for it. It's a bad movie.
The plot it revolves around cosmetics that make you superhuman.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
just something to get ready for.
Okay, so
yes.
I mean the Joker made cosmetics that killed you.
Yeah, no, this made cosmetics that wouldn't allow you to die.
Yeah.
Interesting. Kind of went the other way there.
Yeah.
All right. I'm withholding judgment. It looks terrible. I know it looks. I know it probably is, but I haven't seen it, so I can't give an honest review. And I have to get to the bottom of this.
Also, by the way, I forgot this, but Zoe Kravitz voiced Catwoman in the Lego Batman.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So she's got a little practice already.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I'm the more that I hear about that movie, the more interested I am in it. Yeah,
well, we talked about it a few weeks ago, right? What they were saying that was going to be drawing most heavily from, like what the inspirations for it were going to be. Year One. Oh no, sorry, not Year One. It was
Halloween.
The Long Halloween. That was it.
Yeah.
Assuming that they're still sticking with that would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Who knows? Because I feel like things change with that movie a lot, so we'll see what happens by the time it actually comes out.
The other bits of news on this front was apparently, I don't know if it's still on, but there was strong rumors that Jonah Hill was talking to play a villain in that movie.
Yeah.
It seems like maybe the Riddler, but I don't think there's been any confirmation of that yet. And also Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, there was a Reddit leak, so it has like a long list, and everybody's already slotted. So it has Jonah Hill not as the Riddler, but as the Penguin.
So that was the original rumor I saw.
I would love that so much.
Same. Jonah Hill's great. Like he can play some interesting parts. I feel like he'd be a good Psycho. I know he's played one before. I just haven't seen that. But I would totally be on board with that. Absolutely. There was a number of trailers that I saw going into Joker, and one of them that I have to bring up right now. And Al, bear with me for a second here, but Uncut Gems. Did you see this trailer?
Oh, yeah, I saw that when it first dropped a few weeks ago.
It was, the trailer starts, and I see A24, and I went, oh! And then it started, and it's going, and I'm like, something's not right here. And then I'm like, why is that camera up that guy's nose? And I was like, oh my god. And it's the friggin' Good Time guys. And I'm not happy that I was able to call that, but I'm avoiding this movie at all.
See, I could tell just the cinematography. I was like, this reminds me of the Safdie brothers. Okay. Gary loves Good Time.
Oh no!
So much fun.
Oh god, like that movie.
You just got to sit there in the dread, and it doesn't. I wish we had already talked about Joker at this point. I mean, talk about a movie that actually has something to say.
Good Time.
Well shot.
I will agree with you on that, Gary. Despite the fact that we're spoiling our Joker conversation at this point. Yeah, no, there was much more clarity of message in Good Time than there was in this movie.
At least it subverts your expectations, and the robbery doesn't make any sense. I agree, it doesn't make any sense. But the rest of the movie is gold. And where it goes is really fun. And it's just an interesting night that happens over a 24 or 14-hour period, however long that movie plays. Front to back, Edward Cullen, he wants to save his brother, and he thinks he's doing the right thing, and he's doing the wrong thing, but it's all he has.
Oh my god! But it's so bad.
I don't know what you saw.
The cinematography was I just couldn't deal with it. The movie actually did make me sick, and that's probably just my own personal taste.
Oh, see, I didn't have an issue with that.
If anything, it was closer to like a Michael Mann sort of deal, like Tom Cruise is a hitman, and
Collateral?
he has Jamie Foxx. Yes, Collateral.
Oh my god!
I thought it was shot more like Collateral more than anything else, but I like seeing. I guess we'll get back to the actual trailer, Uncut Gem. I'm a big Sandler guy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested. I love Punch Drunk Love. Love when Sandler goes dramatic. I think he can actually act. And 90% of the time, he's just getting a paycheck because he can. Anybody would. And that's fine. That's just how he lives his life.
Sure.
Well, I mean, all of us would love to have paid destination vacations with our buddies. So I can't begrudge him that, but I also don't have to watch it. That being said, I'm interested in this movie because it's not that. It looks like it could be interesting.
There's sports gambling. Me and Al are both sports guys. KG's in it. KG looks like an actual pretty good actor. I'm interested. If you guys are out, you're out. But
It's got Mike Francesa.
I mean, I have a feeling Al's going to put this one on the list, and I'm just going to have to go for it. But I will agree with you that in the trailer, Adam Sandler was selling it. I thought
he looks like a real person.
Well, he looks like he actually wants to be there.
Right. But and that part of it was appealing to me, but the rest of it and the feeling I was getting that was reminding me too much of Good Time was taking me out of the experience. That being said, there were a number of other trailers, some that I'm going to skip over, but one in particular. Have you guys seen the Ford vs. Ferrari trailer?
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
Same answer.
Don't remember.
It's Christian Bale. He's doing a thing.
That's right.
Being this
The
great
old
man.
Christian Bale doing stuff.
There's
See, I don't know. I feel like
car.
See, I feel like I remember while watching the trailer, I was like, is this just a remake of Rush with what's his name, Chris Hemsworth, and the other guy who was also in the bad guy in one of the Marvel movies, Daniel Bruhl. I felt like I was watching a trailer for the same exact movie, except it's now a different old racing movie. I don't know.
I didn't see that one either.
It was okay.
Was it? I don't know. This particular movie, the big name thing doesn't really get me. I don't care too much about that. But the movie itself, the way that was shot, that looked very stylish to me. I liked what was going on, what I was seeing, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. It seems like it might be like a semi-entertaining pick to watch that is probably take everything with a grain of salt, would be my guess. But I don't know. It looks entertaining, and I'm a big fan of John Barenthal these days, and I want to see him. And I don't know.
And he always plays the same role.
He does. Angry guy?
Yeah.
But he's good at angry guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is actually like the last Fox independent film that Disney bought in the merger.
Oh,
really? So I think this is going to be like the last Fox Searchlight film or whatever their indie sort of offshoot was.
I think they're going to maintain that brand because it allows that particular. I don't think Disney's going to meddle with all of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just saying that this movie was paid for by Fox, like New Mutants, and now Disney just owns it.
Awesome, Al. Why don't you give us a new?
I'm actually light on the news, other than. Are you guys familiar with what's going on with Fortnite?
No.
I just found this interesting, considering I don't play it. My sister is a big fan. Okay. Neither of you guys plays it at all?
I think I played it once.
Okay,
I do PUBG because my friend bought it for me. I'm going to be honest.
I like PUBG.
Okay, so here's the deal. Fortnite died. I think over the weekend, they have like different seasons where they change up the map, they change up like, weapons and different stuff, or whatever. Different seasons. So what happened was the world ended at the end of the season 10 event, and it ended and it turned into a black hole, and the whole like map died and everything, and like it was unplayable.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I found kind of like a cool, like gimmicky, like event thing. Now everyone pretty much figured out. Like it's not like
is this how the purge starts?
One would wonder. No, I found it interesting because it wasn't like it just broke. Like this was clearly a planned thing. And when they've had outages, it was for before big updates, so everyone kind of figures that they're doing a huge update for the next season coming out or whatever.
Right.
But I just found this like a cool gimmicky way to do this, where like some like rocket launched and it like created a singularity that like annihilated the whole map. If you logged on, that's all you'll see or whatever.
That's kind of cool.
And what brought this all home for me was that today on Twitter, Lady Gaga just tweeted, "What's Fortnite?"
Yes.
Because I guess Twitter was completely aflame with that for the last few days.
That's great.
So I love when you see like people like trying to catch up with pop culture in real time, especially when they're famous pop culture icons themselves.
Is that innocent or is it a serious troll move?
I'm gonna guess it was innocent, like, what the hell is everyone talking about type of thing. Like, it didn't sound malicious, it sounded genuinely confused.
That's pretty awesome. What would be even better is if they made all this money off the game and they were like, we had enough, and they just shut it down. That would throw the world into chaos. That's a Joker move.
I'm sure at the beginning it probably was doing that. But I think today they dropped the trailer for the new chapter, the next chapter, because I think there was 10 seasons, so they're now starting a second chapter.
Okay.
Here we go. There's a launch trailer that came out sometime this morning, I guess. It was an official trailer. Following the game's big end-of-season event, Fortnite turned from a game of weird characters and 10-year-old teammates into a swirling black hole. It then, to the internet's collective shock, stayed that way. Confused players joined forces to decode mysterious numbers, play a hidden mini-game, entertain themselves with speculation, spend more than 35 hours staring at what basically amounts to a screensaver. At last, we are free from the hole, and we'll be getting a new season of Fortnite.
That's pretty fun, though. That's like creating a cultural movement like that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I guess it's a whole new map, a battle pass trailer that shows possible new weapons and ways to level up. So I don't know when it's supposed to go live. This is released this episode, so I just think that whole thing as like a viral marketing thing I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Speaking of trailers that drop, I feel like Gary's got something that he wants to say.
Hey guys, did you see this Doolittle trailer or what?
I definitely didn't watch it.
Reimagining of the character, and it was really great to revisit it after 20 years. You know, the absence of Eddie Murphy in everyday life is upsetting in general. I'm glad we have really sad Robert Downey Jr. who doesn't want to be there to replace him.
Are we talking about Doolittle or Dolomite with Eddie Murphy?
No, Doolittle. Eddie Murphy was Dr. Doolittle in the 90s or whatever.
Well, you said our life was missing Eddie Murphy, and there's a trailer for a new movie with Eddie Murphy coming out.
This is true. He's back, baby.
I definitely didn't watch this trailer right before we hit record, so...
Me neither.
I am perfect to talk about it.
So when a trailer opens with, from the producer of Alice in Wonderland, my brain shuts off.
It's and Maleficent, and you just went,
Apparently Maleficent was really good. That's what I've heard.
I've heard that as well.
I think it's okay. I think there's a really weird rape allegory in the middle that's weird. And
I thought that was the whole point.
Yes, that's the whole point, but it's a movie for children.
Yeah, well, they're teaching you at a young age that rape is bad. Apparently that needs to be taught still.
Okay. Back to Doolittle.
Back to Doolittle. Watched the trailer with Gary, and what was the question? I don't know what that was. And then I was curious, though, if there's a source material that I'm not familiar with.
I think Dr. Doolittle originally was a children's story.
Okay, so in the first one that I could see that came out was in 1967. Movie-wise. And I'm going to read you the description from IMDb from the 1967 Doolittle. After the animal communicating veterinarian goes too far for his clientele, he and his friends escape their hometown to the sea in search of the great pink sea snail.
So it sounds like that's what this one is going to be, too.
Yeah, sounds like that sounds like a kid's story, right? So maybe it won't be terrible, but it's just not...
You guys watch the trailer? Or?
No, I don't know. I did watch the trailer. That's why I don't understand why. I don't think it is related to that as far as the trailer goes, but I'm hoping that this is just a poorly done teaser.
I watched the trailer, and this is what was flashing through my mind. I couldn't take it seriously because I was just getting images of other movies that when combined together, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. And the ones that came to mind really first and foremost was there's some Noah's Ark vibes. Uh-huh. There's heavy Lion King vibe, mostly because that, like I said, the very first scene looks like Zazu coming in over the plains, the opening scene of Lion King. Sherlock Holmes for obvious reasons, Robert Downey Jr. doing a weird British accent. And also the movie that me and Anthony love to talk about on the show, 93 Jungle Book. Um,
Why does it keep coming up, Al?
well, don't give me this fucking trailer and we won't talk about it.
Is there quicksand?
Oh, they were out at sea, so I'm hoping not.
You don't know.
Gary, have you seen that movie? You know the one I'm talking about?
The original, like the cartoon we saw as kids? Or?
No. The one that came out in the 90s with...
The 90s snuff film.
Yeah, the 90s snuff film with Brandon Lee, Jason Lee, or not Jason Lee, Bruce Lee's son. It was Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee. It was Carrie Elways. It was Lena Headey, very young Lena Headey, Sam Neill.
Sounds awful.
A couple of random people who you've seen in things, a couple of ringers, that guys. And yeah, it was actually pretty good for the time and for it was a children's movie. But there's a scene that freaked me out so much as a kid, and I brought it up a few months ago to Anthony, and he's like, "Oh my God, I had no memory of this movie until you mentioned that, and now I'm getting PTSD flashbacks."
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's someone drowning in quicksand, and it's horrendous to watch. And yeah, actually, you know who it is? You know who that guy was who was drowning in the quicksand? I'm pretty sure it was Sir Roderick Castle from the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones.
What?
But 25 years younger. Yeah, I recognized it while it was going on. I was like, this guy looks really familiar. And I looked at the movie. I was like, oh my God, that's Roderick Castle.
And that's when we learned what it's like to actually have repressed memories that bubble up. That was terrifying.
Well, there was no more bubbles after that scene.
Yeah.
Gary, we'll have to send you the link to that after we're done recording so you can see the scene because it's pretty rough.
I think we need to watch it. I think we need to watch the movie as a group, like a group therapy session.
I don't want to know this exists now. It's like this Shazam Kazam. Berenstein, but whatever.
Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, that Doolittle trailer though. That's it's a bad trailer.
They're dumping it in January. Dumping it in January.
Yeah. It
They're dumping it. What are you talking about? It's Oscar bait.
Oscar bait. Probably better than Roma. All right. So we have a what's probably now going to be a reoccurring segment, just because it's the second time it's coming up. A while back, I read a little interview with Tom Hanks. He had mentioned how he would love to play a Bond villain, and now that's all I want. Right? So,
wait, we're gonna have a recurring bit of Tom Hanks as Bond villain?
No, a recurring bit of actors or actresses saying a thing that now that's the only thing that I want. This one is brought to you by Chris Evans at Ace Comic-Con in Chicago. Absolutely. I would love to. That was so sad about kind of finishing Endgame. Was just we were never going to get to hang out again. And I immediately started thinking, what else could we do? And I'd love to. We could remake The Three Amigos. Please do that. Him, Robert Downey Jr., and Hemsworth. Yeah.
I mean, I take my money.
Yeah.
Just that threesome from the end of Endgame when they're all getting ready to fight Thanos.
Cancel Doolittle. Bring this to light. This is what needs to happen. This is gold.
Did you have Brolin be the villain as El Guapo, or
yes? It would be so good. Yeah, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. Tom Hanks as Bond villain I want that more, but this is a close second.
Okay.
The Halloween movie season is upon us, and I was curious if you guys have any go-tos that you watch each year around this time. So we did this last year around the Christmas time. We watched White Christmas, and we did an episode on that because I had never seen it. It's one of Al's reoccurring Christmas movies. So do you guys have Halloween flicks that you go to that you have to see each year?
I mean, it's just Hocus Pocus, really.
Fair enough. What about you?
I'm a big horror movie guy. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm a big Saw guy. Friday the 13th is my favorite series overall. However, when I'm flipping channels and AMC is just on, Halloween 2 and 4, and 1 once we get really, really close. But I do have a bit of a curveball.
Okay.
Cabin Fever, the original, the early 2000s, flesh-eating disease horror movie, Eli Roth. You got Ryder Strong.
Not a big Eli Roth fan.
No?
Me neither, but I mean, just so campy and good.
Is that
the razor blade scene in the bathtub with the girl? It's just so stupid, but acted so well for what it is.
Is that the one with the... I'm going to call him Sean Hunter because I can't think of his actual name.
Ryder Strong.
Okay, thank you, Ryder Strong. I don't think I've ever seen that. So this is one that so I have to watch that this season? Is that...
Okay, well, can I blow your mind for a second?
Sure.
Did you know that this was a movie with an unnecessary remake?
I did not know that, no.
There's like a 2015, 2014 Cabin Fever remake that does not need to exist. That's pretty much the same movie, but with all the subtle humor removed.
Oh, no.
See, I've never seen it. I've never seen it. The original one was in, what, like 2005 or something like that?
Yeah, early 2000. I love
2002
it, you know?
we got here. For
Oh,
the original.
2002, okay. I know that one is supposed to be really good because I know it's got like a huge plot twist at the end that's like actually a genuinely good plot twist and all that, but
yeah, I would check it out.
I've never seen it. It is one that I've kind of had on my, like, maybe one day I'll kind of get to it or whatever, but I'm not a big fan.
There's a lot of setup. There's pretty much one of my favorite just offshoot, doesn't matter, horror characters, Party Cop shows up. And he's exactly what I just described. So, Eli Roth has his own cameo in the movie as just like a guy who has a bunch of weed for some reason.
Perfect.
Nice.
Very gross, but it takes all of the 80s camp and it transports it to today. So
that's what
gem out there.
That's why I'm not a big fan of him. Is the gore is too gratuitous for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you don't like Hostel 2, I mean, those are just Saw rip-offs. And
yeah, I actually liked the Saw movies, though even the gore in those got to me too much. But I actually found like the whole story through the first several of them to be interesting. With Hostel, I saw part of it and I was like, ugh, this is rough. This is rough watching. And the Green Inferno, honestly, even just the trailer made me a little bit my stomach turned a little bit.
I'm happy I finally saw it, but I agree. I mean, Eli Roth does not make good movies. But I enjoy what I get out of them.
No.
All right, fair enough.
There was a sequel. Did you see that? 2009?
Yeah.
And
Spring
Fever.
Spring Fever. So that takes pretty much all the really... It just goes so much farther in the comedy and all the setup. You care less about the characters. Like, when you cast Ryder Strong, for most of the people like our age, we're just like, oh, Sean Hunter, right. We want him to live, you know, and they have like hot chicks in the woods and the classic like horror shitheads that you want to die. So it's a basic setup. The second one, you just want everyone to die, and everybody does die.
Kill them all. You had mentioned what Friday the 13th is your favorite? Is that?
Yeah.
Now, you like original?
Not so much. 4 and 7 and 8 are my jam.
Do they have subtitles?
4. Guess the subtitles. Scary. All right. 7 is The New Blood.
Okay.
8 is Jason Takes Manhattan, and 4 is The Final Chapter.
Yes.
5 is.
Wait a minute. How can 4 be the final chapter when there's 8 more of them?
That's right.
4 is the iconic one that really refines all the different elements of the film. So, you know, just teenagers that you want to die, that are really horny in a cabin doing drugs.
Right.
And Jason shows up. It's got a young Crispin Glover doing a really awkward dance. It's just a masterpiece. I think it introduces Tommy Jarvis.
It's just a masterpiece. Oh my god. So you had mentioned you mentioned a couple of Halloweens as well, right? Which ones were those?
2,
Okay.
2, I think, is my favorite overall. The Rob Zombie ones are awful. Nobody should ever watch them.
I like the first one.
They're just white trash people screaming at each other.
The second one is horrible.
A Rob Zombie movie.
I like the first Rob Zombie Halloween more than Halloween 2018. I did not like Halloween.
Wait, is that that's the 2018? That's the one that just came out recently that they're making 2 more, right? Oh man, I wanted to see that. I haven't. I had my expectations were high, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, didn't you prep for it by watching the original?
I did, and then
you never got to the movie.
I know I never got to it. I hated the original, and it's just because it's the first time I saw it, and I realized that had I had the history of it, I probably would have enjoyed it more. I get why it was good. It's not good today unless you have that nostalgia factor.
It doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but more so with the early Friday the 13th. I think Halloween 1 through 3 are still better made movies than Friday the 13th 1 through 3.
Sure.
However, once Friday the 13th really takes off, it's a better series than when Halloween takes off, which gets really weird, and there's a cult, and Ant-Man shows up.
I definitely put it on once on some random chat, and I was like, "That's Paul Rudd."
Yeah, Paul Rudd. Like his 3rd acting role ever.
Amazing.
First of all, I'm pretty sure everyone at some point has turned on something like that seems like it should be too far back for Paul Rudd to be in, and you're like, "Oh my god, is that Paul Rudd?"
Yeah, he's been the same age for 40 years. So
that's true. It's why he's going to be like the best looking 80-year-old ever, because he's looked 40 since he was 20. And now that he's like almost 50, he still looks 40. So it's like it's really working for him. I remember I went through that when I was watching The Cider House Rules. I was like, oh my god, that's Paul Rudd. No idea.
What about when they rebooted Friday the 13th? How did you feel about that?
I like the Michael Bay one. I think the Michael Bay one is really well done. For what it is, it's well shot. Cram a lot in there. It's like 3 different movies. They pretty much put Friday the 13th 1 through 3 in one movie. There's some good TNA, guys. I don't know how it's a Michael Bay movie. There's some great kills. I think it's very self-aware for what it is.
Yeah.
I wish it made more money.
Yeah, I enjoyed that remake or whatever you want to call it. I never know. Remake, reboot, wherever we're at. Reboot. So yeah, I did not like the. Now, granted, I didn't see the original. I didn't think the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot was very good.
I think that's okay. I think it's scary. I think it's kind of scary.
It was creepy enough.
I don't mind.
Is it just because you're a Jackie Earl Haley fan?
I think he's pretty creepy.
I was gonna say it's just because you're a Jackie Earl Haley fan, isn't it?
Are you familiar with the originals?
Yes. I've seen most of them. I was just more of a Jason guy.
Sure.
I like Freddy versus Jason. I think that's a great.
I've seen that.
Oh, that was a funny movie.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that. I mean, it's bad, but it was
entertaining though.
You're a Jason. Kelly Rowland's in it for some reason because it was 2003.
Oh my god! All right, so go to Halloween. Cabin Fever is where we're at. That's what I need to. That's what I need to be watching this season.
Oh yeah!
All right,
check it out.
I'm adding that to the list. Al, what about you? You have any Halloween? Oh, you said Hocus Pocus. I mean, that's fair.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a big horror movie fan. Hocus Pocus is a classic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I watched it the other night.
All right.
Max loves your Yabos.
I don't know. I mean, it's just... What's up?
I said I love your Yabos.
he loves your... what'd you call him? Yabos?
Yabos?
Wait, are you seriously a virgin? Yeah, I'm going to tattoo to my fucking forehead. I always like that one. I'm not a big horror movie fan. Like, I've seen some whatever. Like, some of them are good, some of them are whatever. Like I said, I'm not a big fan. I was a big fan of the Saw movies. I think I saw the first 6.
Yeah.
I never 7 saw of those, right?
Yeah, I never saw the last one.
Me neither.
Saw the final chat.
Is it worth it? Should I go back to it?
Saw 3.
I'm not watching Saw 3D.
There's a new one. There's Jigsaw.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I had no interest.
Wait, that's
2017. It's a prequel, but it's not really a prequel.
Oh my god!
Oh, is that what it was supposed to be? I didn't know what.
It takes place in the past, but then it jumps to the future.
It's like a restaurant that doesn't know what it is. That's annoying.
Well, that's funny because like when we were in high school and when we were in middle school, it was like the slogan was, "If it's not Saw, it's not Halloween."
Yeah,
Halloween, it's not Saw, or whatever that slogan was, and that was just so big.
I remember I saw the first one and really liked it, and then I saw the second one in theaters, and then I think I saw the third one eventually when it made it to TV, and then I lost track of them. And then the sixth one was coming out my freshman year of college, and one of my like flatmates wanted to see it, and I was like, well, I didn't see 4 and 5, and he goes, yeah, well, we're going to. And we went to Walmart, and they had a 5-pack for like $20 of the first 5 of them. And we're like, so we're watching all 5 of them like every other day until the movie comes out. And it's like,
nice. Okay.
And so I watched the whole first 5, and I was like, you know what? I dig it. And I like the 6th one well enough, but then I never got around to seeing the 7th one.
Same.
When it came out.
I would like to go back and finish that off one day. There's going to be another Texas Chainsaw movie, and I don't know if it's another reboot or if it's a sequel or what, but it just it seems like the horror genre is a place that's like it's ripe for something new, but like it would be fun for someone to take that old style, that 80s 90s style, and make a new movie in that. That's completely different, just its own thing, and yeah, it could carry on all the tropes, and that would be great. I feel like it'd be super entertaining.
Did you see Texas Chainsaw 3D when he had the niece and he saves the niece at the end, and they do the whole they explain?
No, I saw the one with Mary Camden. What was her? It's Jessica Biel. Sorry, that was a Seventh Heaven reference.
Wow.
There's an early 2000s one. There's a 90s one with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Oh my god!
They do try once a decade, and it just never works out. I think just because Leatherface sucks. I mean, he's just a guy with a chainsaw, and if you come across him, he'll probably chop you up. But
fair enough.
If you just don't go to Leatherface's house,
you're good.
You'll probably be fine.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Are either of you guys into? I'm guessing not you, Al, but Gary? Are you into horror video games?
Those scare me because I'm living them.
Yeah,
I'm a big Resident Evil guy.
Sure.
Yeah, mostly just first-person shooters or whatever.
Fair enough.
I'll watch a movie because it's not interactive.
Yeah,
just a movie.
There's a game that came out a few years back called Until Dawn, and Brian of the Spinchoon and I streamed the entire game. We played it start to finish, and it is awesome. It is 80s 90s horror movie as a video game, but you are basically making choices for the characters and seeing how it unfolds because it's got multiple endings, all that type of stuff. So it's really fun, and it's got a replay value to it in that sense. Granted, it's long to play a game in one sitting in general. This game itself is not super long, but playing it in one sitting it is. At one point, Brian falls asleep. This exists on YouTube. We streamed the whole thing, and it's up there. And I genuinely screamed at one point, out loud for a slightly extended period of time because of a jump scare that really got me. And I don't know if it was because I was half asleep when it happened, but that was a very fun game to play, and I would suggest you take a stab at it.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to check out, or you have to send me that video. I at least want to see you. I at least want to see you screaming and waking Brian up.
I will. I'll have to find it for you. So that's horror movies. Every I don't know 2.5 weeks they release Star Wars with a new box art. Have you noticed this? So I was walking through Best Buy, and once again, there's a Star Wars section, and it's all of the movies, all with a corresponding box art. They look like they're from the same collection, and it looks nice. It's a matte black with a nice poster image on the front. And I almost got suckered in again. Now I've bought Star Wars a handful of times. I've owned Batman way too many times. Al and I have spoken about this. I just got it again, so that adds another to the list, which means I have.
Oh my god, what is wrong with you?
They released them in 4K, and I bought them, and it's in a really cool box, and I'm very excited about it. But I'm not gonna buy these Star Wars ones again until they release the entire saga.
I actually just got one a few months ago because I didn't have the original 3. I had not the original 3, the prequel trilogy. I had 2 and 3 on DVD, and I had 1 somewhere kicking around on VHS. And when we were embarking on the entirety of the saga with Gianna, we said, okay, we're not watching fucking Phantom Menace on VHS, so I'm buying 1 through 3 on Blu-ray. And outside, the actual covers are the original covers, but the outside sleeve I liked, and it has like a different one, and it's somewhere behind me, but I can't reach it. I don't feel like getting up and going around the chair. So,
but Al, I know I have the movie. I know I have Batman 100 times, but come on, this time it came in this sweet metal case, and it's all.
Oh, that's so cool!
It's all 4, but they're all steel books. And they're beautiful, and I had to, Al. I had to.
So which ones are in there? Is it just the 4, the Burton Schumacher?
Yeah.
What you're saying is that you own an additional copy of Batman and Robin.
I'm not proud of the number of times I own the movie, but I do, and that's just it's.
I mean, it has its moment.
Does it?
What killed the dinosaurs?
Yeah, I see.
There he is.
I wasn't gonna. Wow, I completely lost my train of thought. So I'm just gonna leave that one alone. I was gonna dignify that with a response, but I've struggled poorly with that.
While that movie is ridiculous, the most ridiculous line comes from Batman Forever. Now you're familiar with this one. It's boiling acid.
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's either the back credit card or I'll get drive-through.
Yeah,
it's the back credit card.
Never leave
home without it. Oh man, I'm really, I'm kind of excited to watch that in 4K. Just really seeing too much of it. You know what I mean?
Well, hold off on watching it, and we'll do the bad movie night finally. Because honestly, I haven't seen it all the way through since when it originally came out.
Okay,
dude, come on. Like I had those all on VH. Like
hell yeah.
I mean, I've seen little bits and pieces of it occasionally since then. Although it's been a while since I've seen any of it. But no, I only saw it all the way through once when it first came out, and even then, I don't think I hated it as much as the years have caused me to hate it. But even then, I was like, "This is fucking batshit crazy."
I was too blinded by the fact that it was Batman. Like I had the Taco Bell cups and all the things that you could get from.
I mean, listen, you had the fact that you were like 9 years old. It was Batman. Yeah. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger. You were going to be in for a penny, in for a pound, no matter what. So
yeah. I was
Uma Thurman, 12 for a young boy.
Yeah, I didn't know who Uma Thurman was at the. Actually, that's not true because I watched with Anthony when I was a kid. Because Anthony is like what, a year and a half older than me, or two and a half years older than me. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
And
we saw
that we saw the Avengers. The Avengers with Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman.
God, yeah.
We saw that before we saw Batman and Robin. So and that movie was also batshit insane.
Yep.
But control the weather.
I remember there being sequences with. I remember sequences of black and white, someone getting murdered in the middle of the road, Uma Thurman and Ray Fiennes and Sean Connery. That's all I remember, and a clear parasol inside of a greenhouse. That's all I remember from that movie.
That's the whole thing.
Okay, so I remembered it. So yes, I did know who Uma Thurman was at that point, but that is the only reason why. And those movies basically came out back to back. So
yeah. All right, what are we watching? What's everybody up to?
I'll start it off because my intro today was from the season finale of Succession. I know you don't watch, Anthony. Gary, I can't remember. Have you been watching Succession?
No.
Oh, God, you guys are killing me. So, occasionally over the course of the run of this show, I have declared, with all of the declarative power that I have, what the best show on television is at the time. It was The Americans. The Americans has since concluded and is off the air. I passed the mantle to Better Call Saul, and this may be the co-heir to the throne along with Better Call Saul. Succession is so fucking good.
We'll have to make it happen.
Yeah, second season just ended on.
Keep growing my list of required viewing, and it's. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's making me anxious.
Hey, no one told you to stop and go back into watching Friends or whatever you were watching.
Whoa! That's just background noise. All right.
Well, what was the other thing that you went back and watched that was an older thing? Because you were watching Scrubs, but then you dropped.
Office?
Oh, The Office.
I finished it.
Yeah, but that took years off of your life. The amount of how long that show was.
No, it wasn't so bad. We actually watched it way too quick. It was really good. It was really funny, and it's probably one of the better endings of a series as far as TV goes. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not my favorite. It's funny. I think it's really good. It's not my favorite. People are crazy about The Office, and I kind of get it if you were maybe watching it at that time. It's not the best. It's just not.
Brian broke my heart like a week ago when he told me that he couldn't get into Scrubs, and I was like, "You're killing me here. You're absolutely killing me."
You'll learn to just accept that Brian makes poor choices.
Well, I know this because, like I said, it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard, or actually, I guess right at that point. When me and Gary, you'll appreciate this, me, Brian, and Anthony were in a group message talking about something a couple of weeks ago, and I don't remember what it was that we're talking about, and me and Anthony both liked something, and Brian's like, yeah, I didn't really like it, but it's entirely possible that I'm just wrong. He goes, people say opinions can't be wrong. He goes, that's not true. My opinions are wrong all the time. And I said that level of self-awareness I've so rarely seen in this world, and I really appreciated that.
Gary, did you watch The Office?
No, I was out on sitcoms by the time I got to college, really. So Parks and Rec, The Office, I was out. I mean, the last time I really watched sitcoms was that Fox lineup, pretty much like The Simpsons, Arrested Development, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Hill, Futurama. I was a big Tool Time guy. I get the classics. I watched a little bit of 2.5 Men.
Okay.
But those still fall into the sitcom category for me, as much as people say that they're elevated comedy, or, when it comes to syndication and syndicated comedies that are still big, I'll do like Seinfeld.
Sure.
I'm not a big Friends guy. I'm not a big The Office guy. Like you said, I didn't watch it when it first aired, so it's not as important to me. I would say the only thing that comes to like the cusp of that was like 30 Rock, but even then, I didn't finish 30 Rock. So.
Right. Yeah, I tried to get into 30 Rock a few times. Didn't really. I couldn't. But it's one of those things where everybody's like, you gotta power through the first season, and I just don't want to. It's not gonna happen.
Getting back to my original point of what we're watching, I watched the finale of Succession. Just the season finale, second season. The first season I loved. The second season was even better. It was really incredible. All the little bits of things that didn't quite work in the first season, they either like eliminated, reduced, or smoothed out into a more like clear, like concise product. This season was phenomenal. Writing incredible. Acting on all fronts is incredible. And the story it was even better than in the first season, even though it's mostly a continuation. It's not really a discrete. I mean, there's the things that they're focusing on, but it's all a continuation of what's been started since the beginning of the first episode.
Wait, sorry, you just finished the second season. Is that how far they are, or? Yeah.
No, the season finale was on Sunday, and
gotcha.
I just watched it last night. Okay. I was a big fan. So if you guys are looking for something good to watch, it's like a pitch black comedy because it's like as much as it's like a serious-ish story with dramatic elements, they play a lot of it for humor. Even if it's not like the laugh out loud, like slapstick, they're not going to be putting a laugh track behind it.
Sure.
But there is a lot of funny shit in it, even if you're cringing through a lot of it. or like just want to be like, ew, like you people are terrible, terrible people, but you have to laugh at a fair amount of it. But that show is really, really, really good. And then I also watched last week the most recent season of Schitt's Creek. Made it onto Netflix.
Yes.
Knocked that out in a couple of nights.
So good.
It was really, really good. I know you and me were talking about it briefly on Saturday. The funny thing was I was talking about it yesterday with my sister. She said she finally got caught up. She hadn't finished the season before.
Okay.
She was almost done with it. So she started the sixth season, and she was telling me the other day I was driving, and her roommate from college were both fans of the show, and she said, I was driving, and I saw someone with a bumper sticker on their car that said,
David.
"You, David."
Yep. I saw that recently, too. I got really excited, and I was the only person in the car, so I couldn't share it with anybody at the time.
Oh, no.
It's unfortunate.
Gary, have you ever seen any of that, or no? I guess you said you're not a big comedy fan. But...
No, I mean, I love, what's it, Steve Levy? Or
Daniel Levy or Eugene Levy?
Eugene
Levy, yeah.
You're thinking of the ESPN anchor.
Great. And all that, like I said, I'm not into sitcoms anymore. I can't do it. I don't know what it is.
See, I like ones like that, and that's what I've always said, is I've struggled with the ones like Friends or like Big Bang Theory, where it's like the canned laugh track thing. The ones that are just like a straightforward comedy, if it's subject matter or if it's really good writing, then I'm on board for it. And I remember I said it to Anthony a while back on the show, when Schitt's Creek was first coming out, I was like, ooh, that looks interesting, and I just completely forgot about it by the time it came out. I never watched it. And him and Kim were talking it up, and I was like, oh, it's all on Netflix. Then I have no excuse. Let me start getting into it. And I binged through the first 4 seasons, and then the fifth one just came out on Netflix, and then the 6th season, the final season, will be out in January.
Well, the thing is, you introduced me to Lovesick, and I felt the need to return the favor.
Lovesick was...
And now I'm going to do that 2 times over, because we finished Fleabag, and it is incredible.
I was about to pick that up, and then I saw Netflix said new season of Schitt's Creek. I was like, nope, gotta finish that first.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So I think I'm actually gonna start that this week.
Oh, so you'll be done if you start tomorrow. You'll be done Thursday. It's so good. It's like you're not gonna stop watching it. It's 2 seasons and it's over. That's it. Okay. They may come back later, but there's no plans right.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, she's busy, right? Phoebe Waller-Bridge, because she created and writes for Killing Eve, which was the other thing I want to start watching.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't see. I thought it was on Netflix and it wasn't on there, so I have to find out where I can watch it. I knocked out the first season of Jack Ryan real quick because the next season comes out in a few weeks. Huh. And then that was pretty solid. If you guys like a little action drama type stuff,
I do want to check that out.
I've talked about Jack Ryan, some Tom Clancy stuff on this show before, and too often recreations of that character and that world get it wrong. And while they dramatically change some of the stuff as far as some plotting, because they're doing a modernized version of the character, unlike the Chris Pine one, the actual character of Jack Ryan himself, as played by John Krasinski in this, is much closer to the source material's actual character than the Chris Pine one or the Ben Affleck one was. Harrison Ford, those movies are actually really solid, especially Patriot Games is actually a really good adaptation of the source material. There are some changes, but it's actually a pretty faithful. That's a really solid movie. And that depiction of the character is the most accurate one by far. But I was a fan of this first season of the show, and it's pretty quick because it's only like 8 episodes or something like that.
Nice. Just circling back for a sec to Fleabag. It's like I said, it's quick. It's like I said, 2 seasons. It has a really incredible mechanic of you are the conscious, kind of like the internal monologue.
You are the Fleabag.
You are the Fleabag. Yeah, you're like you're in there like face to face with the main character. Like she's talking. It seems like she's breaking the fourth wall and talking to you, but it's really her internal monologue. Like as the show's going on, like the thoughts that you're like, if you were having a conversation with somebody and you had a thought, and in your head, like you're hearing that from her. And it's really the way they play with it is really cool, and what they do with it in the second season is so freaking good. So I encourage you to to get to that. It's well worth your time.
Speaking of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, me and Gianna finally got to solo a Star Wars story last night, and so she actually enjoyed that. So I thought that was interesting.
Nice. So you think you're gonna catch up with everything?
Hopefully, she's got to be back on track. If we do Rogue One next week, we'll be back on track.
Okay.
Don't just skip it.
Yeah.
Skip what now?
It's bad. Not a good movie.
What is it?
It's Rogue One is okay.
I thought you liked Rogue One.
No, it's okay.
I thought that was the one that you liked a lot.
No, that's the one that you love.
No, I know I did too, but I thought you really liked. I thought you
projecting on me.
dies for no reason.
What's that?
Saul Guerrero dies for no reason.
I mean, he was old and crazy.
That's a good reason.
and literally falling apart by the second.
I don't know. Did we circle, Gary? What were you watching? Did we circle back to you on what you're actually?
So if you guys want to keep it on Amazon, Goliath just came out with season 3. I love season 1 and 2. Gonna get into 3.
Okay.
Just Billy Bob Thornton. He's a drunk lawyer. That's really all I need.
That's all it is, and that's all I need from it.
No, he's a silver fox, and he's going to solve the case of the 8 and that's television.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, I did finish The Righteous Gemstones on Sunday.
Nice. How was
that?
that?
Really liked it.
Watching it yet?
I don't think it was as good as Vice Principals. I don't think it is as good as Eastbound and Down. It just has a better cast.
Okay.
It would be tough for it to measure up Principals. That was really good.
It's really hard. I mean, I wish they explored some other areas that they did not. It's very straightforward and cut and dry, but what you do get is very good.
Okay.
Otherwise, just been doing kind of like a comedy Wednesday with the new season of South Park and Crank Yankers, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I too have been doing the South Park Always Sunny Wednesdays.
Oh yeah, Integrity Farm, and they still got it. They still got that fastball, and they can take it out whenever they want.
Nice.
Yeah.
So compared to like Family Guy and The Simpsons, I mean, I think South Park is going at a much higher rate these days, and somebody's got it, I guess.
Fair enough.
More than that, American Horror Story 1984 I've been watching. I think it's quite good.
Okay.
Not as good as seasons past, maybe. Like 1 and 2 are still the best ones for American Horror Story fans, but they're just doing campy, like 80s slasher stuff. And
that sounds appealing to me.
Right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, they're pulling it off good enough to keep me watching.
Nice. Sweet.
Speaking of things that we will soon be watching, or at least I know Gary will, and I'm now interested in too. I didn't realize that Watchmen was out this Sunday.
Yeah,
Oh.
let's do it.
New season of Watchmen starts Sunday.
Okay.
I thought it was still a few weeks away.
I know, it feels like it's always like 6 weeks away.
Wait. You said new season, there already was one?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, the first.
Okay.
Sorry, meaning meaning new Watchmen, not like the old movie from 10 years ago.
Got it.
The new show
Fair enough.
is premiering on Sunday night.
Cool. I'm looking forward to checking that out. What other news and nuggets we got, guys?
I'm good, man. Let's do some quizzes.
All right. Gary, did you have anything else before we get into the quiz?
Quiz it up.
All right. So we're going to do something a little different this time. I'm going to try to do 2 quizzes at the same time. So same question, hopefully, unless the quiz is jacked up for both of you.
That's going to get confusing real quick.
And we're going to see which Batman villain are you? All right. First question. Do you have a hobby? And here are the options. If crime is a hobby, ... I collect things, gardening, I like puzzles, or gymnastics/sports.
I'm going to go with gymnastics/sports.
Okay. Gary?
Crime is a hobby.
Crime is a hobby. Excellent. All right. Describe your style with one word. Snappy, classy, sexy, eccentric, whimsical, practical, slick.
Whimsical.
Okay. Al?
Practical.
Practical. All right. Someone screws you over big time. What do you do? Hatch an elaborate scheme utilizing the aid of outside help? Who cares, as long as you have revenge? terrorize them, kill the fool, hack their computer, steal from them, or prank them.
Terrorize them.
What did you say, Gary?
Who cares?
Who cares? All right. What is your best physical feat of strength? Tumbling / gymnastics? Sensuality? Agility? Brain? Small but deadly? Bare fists? Or intimidation?
I mean, I want to go with sensual, but I'm going to have to honestly go with bare fists.
Okay. Gary? Sensual?
Intimidation.
Weapon of choice. Martial arts? Guns? My minions will take care of things. I already told you, my brain.
Gun.
Martial art.
Martial arts. Which is most important to you? Being loved, being avenged, being admired, being independent, or being feared?
Being
Admired.
Admired, what'd you say, Al?
Being loved.
Loved, okay. Screw rainbows. Black or white? I don't know. That's the question.
Black.
Black.
Alright. Which do you value most? Not sure. Chaos, love, knowledge, freedom, or power?
Chaos.
Freedom.
Got any pet peeves? Goody two-shoes, litter, stupidity, making decisions.
Wait, sorry. Can you repeat this?
Got any pet peeves? Goody two-shoes, litter, stupidity, or making decisions?
Stupidity.
Stupidity.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only right answer. Of these, which is your spirit animal? Wolf, bird, feline, or fox?
Wolf.
Feline.
All right, here we go. Calculating the results. The results are in. Al, you're the Joker.
Really?
Nice. You're the Joker, the clown prince of crime. You're very dedicated to your craft, and you know what? I really can't think of anything nice to say. To put it bluntly, you're fucking crazy, sadistic, chaotic. You will stop at nothing to defeat your adversaries, while murder and mayhem bring a big fat grin to your face.
I thought I was the clown prince of podcast.
Yeah, that too. Gary, you're the Riddler.
Yeah.
You consider yourself to be quite the whiz kid. You were probably in the top percentile of your class, and you prefer brains over brawn as your weapon of choice. Those who challenge you to a match of wits are sure to fail miserably. That was a fun quiz. What's next? Crossword? Sudoku? All right, this was from Playbuzz Quiz.
I assumed I was going to be Bane.
That's your. I mean, I would have just picked that for you, but that's I just really wish it was just like something completely off the wall was the answer, was what it came up with. That would be really fun. If it was just like a random generator at the end, like the questions don't matter at all.
Can I be that clay guy?
Clayface?
Clayface.
Yeah, that's his name.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it for fun and games this week. Let us dive into our Flick of the Week. Joker! You guys seem to have some thoughts on this movie. I feel like I'm going to be on the other side of this, which is interesting and good.
That's correct.
Because we can actually have a conversation rather than just celebrating or destroying something together as a group.
That's true. Too often we both love or hate something.
I texted Al when I left the movie, and I said that was a solid 8. I have since changed my opinion. I now think it's a 9. So, go on.
Big yikes.
Yeah, so I've got my reasons, and we'll get into those. But pre-spoilers, there are things that the movie, I think, does really well as far as music, tone, and atmosphere. Gotham City is Gotham City. They did a really good job. The music choices, as far as the orchestration, and then the song choices that are peppered in, are awesome. I think those are really well done.
I actually agree with all those things. The problem is the bad so far outweighs it that the atmosphere can't bring it up to anywhere near that high.
So the thing that at first I was not sold on was, of all of these things that I thought it did well around the world, around the message of like what's going on, like, you know, with basically the city destroying a person's mind type thing, and not really helping in any way. I didn't at first. I thought they completely missed the mark on the Joker, and
because you were right.
But the more I thought about it, I started to go back and think through certain scenes. Then I was putting on my tinfoil hat, and then I went online, and there's other people that are also putting on this foil hat, and I am sold on a certain perspective.
So one thing I'll say is, for the most part, I actually thought they did a decent job of doing a version of a Joker origin story, meaning like what makes someone become the Joker.
Disagree.
But it was just an okay version. There has been more interesting and compelling versions of it.
See, that's what actually bothered me was I don't think you are supposed to know. But Gary, what were you going to say? You said you disagree with Al.
Well, if you're not supposed to know, then what's the fucking point of the movie? Like, I'm sorry, but...
Well, that was something that me and Anthony kind of said before we saw this on some previous episodes, because he said he's not a big fan of the Killing Joke.
That's fine. Then don't be a fan of the Killing Joke. There's like 6 or 7 other iterations of the Joker that you can go to that are cinematic or filmed, you know, as a movie for people to enjoy. And if this doesn't line up with that as a whole, that's fine. That still doesn't really make him the Joker. It's still what you do with the 2 hours or 90 minutes or however long the film is. He's just a mentally ill man dancing in a room for most of the film. And, we will stay away from spoilers for the time being, but sure, I mean, anybody with enough money could have recreated or reenacted 1970s, 1980s New York. That's not hard to do. And, I mean, personally, yes, I've been listening to That's Life by Frank Sinatra for 2 weeks. Like, that's a great song. And, that's a Scorsese thing, is putting the Rolling Stones or other popular music in film. That's a tool for the audience to like the film more. Even Marvel movies do that. So that's not a new thing.
Well, let's start with I was going to say, beyond that, let's continue with what Anthony was saying about creating like the atmosphere or whatever, because there's some stuff we can talk about pre-spoilers. Let's talk about the things I actually liked about the movie.
Okay.
Because that'll be easier. So I'll start off with saying, I actually thought that the movie from a technical perspective was actually really well made. Like, there's some like beautiful cinematic scenes in this. Like you said, Ant, there was some really good matching of score and music to the scene itself. Although I will say that at times it's a little heavy-handed and like overdone, where it's like, okay, like just give me a little bit less than what you're giving me now. But overall, like that was all really strong. Like it's a very tight technical production. It's a really well-made movie. It's really nice to look at and listen to for most of it. And like the times where they're getting a little more stylized or whatever, I was a fan of that sort of stuff. Hands down, there's no question about it. Those are all positives.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it sounded like you were about to say something, a follow up to that. Go on.
No, I was waiting for Gary to go, because it sounds like you already started tipping off that point, and I expanded on it. Gary, would you agree?
No, I also thought you were going back. I like I said, I mean, Todd Phillips has made $150 million movies. He's made $200 million movies. He's made blockbusters before. He knows what he's doing. He's not an amateur, and neither is Joaquin Phoenix. And those are 2 pretty good elements. Just the script falls short for me, and in some of the stuff that other people on this podcast like or enjoy kind of fall more into a gray area for me, where it's like, I'd rather just you make a choice and just give me an interpretation of what you want, as opposed to being like, here's a scene, and maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen. Here's
let's keep that for post spoiler.
I'm trying to be vague.
Oh yeah. For sure. Without getting into that, I totally get where you're coming from, and normally that is my stance. I don't like I feel like a lot of times when a movie's leaving certain things up for interpretation, it's a half-assed solution, right? It's like they didn't think it through, and it's probably the case here as well.
Actually, there's only really one thing that I felt like they really left open to interpretation. It's something me and Gary discussed, just me and him the other day, and again, that's going to have to be really heavy. Yeah, post spoilers.
We'll do that.
I had one other thing I wanted to get into then pre-spoilers, because I feel like we can just talk about it. Again, it's another really positive from my perspective.
Before that, the only thing I will say about that, though, about leaving things open-ended, not making the choices, like you're saying, Gary. That is a thing that normally bothers me, and I have to be like, full disclosure, you all know I love Batman, and you all know I love the Joker. Yeah. So I have when this movie was announced, and I heard a little bit about it, and when we saw the first teaser, I wasn't in. I didn't think it was going to be good. As the buzz started to go around it, I got excited because I wanted. I mean, by all accounts, I would want to like something like this. I think I went in with a low bar and wanted to like it, and I did. And I could see the shortcomings, and we're going to get into those post spoilers. And I could see that I'm giving them a little bit too much of the benefit of the doubt when it comes to those things. And I don't think that. I think there's a lot of people saying that this movie is fantastic for different reasons than what I'm seeing, and I don't actually think that what I'm seeing is actually. I don't think it's going to be a popular opinion.
So the thing is, it's funny because both of us had like kind of the same starting point when we heard it was coming out. We both threw tantrums on this show, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then when we saw the first trailer, I think I was more inclined to come around to it than you initially, and then you were the one by the time we were getting to like, okay, the movie's coming out, who was really all in, and I was kind of hemming and hawing. We talked about that several weeks ago. So by the time we got to like, I sat down to watch the movie, I was like, man, I feel like I'm not going to like it, but I'm willing to like give it a chance. And when it was done, I was like, oh, I actually want to like this movie, but it's too broken for me to be able to. Mm-hmm. Cause like, there's like looking at like it on like a like cork board, like just putting up all the elements and like stringing it together. It's like, there's a lot that could have made, like there's a lot of elements of what could have made a really good movie.
Yeah, it really could have.
They didn't successfully meld into a good movie. Sure. Basically, the best way to say it is, I found that this movie was very much less than the sum of its parts.
That's fair. Just before we dive into the spoiler territory, I want to circle back on a comment that we made earlier. I had previously, I was not a huge fan of The Killing Joke. I went back to it, I reread it, and I enjoyed it more this time, and then putting it in context with as an influence to the movie. Taxi Driver as an influence to the movie. I didn't see The King of Comedy, so I couldn't say how that played into it, but I watched a couple of like clips from it, and I see bits and pieces of that influence, so that's kind of cool. This movie is obviously heavily influenced by those three things that it's been stated before, but you could really see pieces of that come through.
I read a pretty heavy synopsis because I didn't have time. Sorry, Gary flipped the camera on his phone, and we're watching him. His cat.
Eat his leg.
Anyway, I read a pretty heavy synopsis of The King of Comedy, and it sounds this is at best a really well crafted pastiche of that movie, and at worst, it's just like a shameless ripoff of it. You know what I mean? Like, so from that perspective, my review of this movie has nothing to do with that because I read that like today, and all of my thoughts on this have been pretty well formed since I saw it a week ago. There's just too many problems, but like I said, there is actually one other really major plus to this movie that we can do pre-spoiler, and that's I thought that Joaquin's performance was really good.
Yeah.
And like he has to be because he's on screen every single second of the movie, basically. Mm-hmm. And it lives and dies. The whole movie lives and dies by the audience's ability to empathize with the Arthur Fleck character. Mm-hmm. So if Joaquin can't pull it off, this movie, like I would have walked out on the movie. You know what I mean? And up until the end, you absolutely can empathize with this man. Like you feel bad for him. He has had the deck stacked against him every day of his life. And through this performance, you genuinely, like, you feel bad for him when he continues to be down on his luck, when he loses his job, all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? You totally get it. He's a loner. And he's trying to be a good person, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For at least early on. Like, I genuinely feel bad for him. Like, I thought the performance was really strong. The range of emotions and everything, the laughing was really interesting to me, especially because there was a variety. It wasn't the same laugh all the time. Yeah. And like we know what the reason behind it is. It was even kind of leaked out before the movie came out. He's had a traumatic brain injury that caused him to have these sort of like psychological like breakdown or whatever that causes these laughs, and like sometimes it even sounds more like he's crying than laughing. I thought that was a really interesting way to take it, where they're having different versions of the laugh, because it's usually kind of just the same thing.
Like when he can't catch his breath.
Yeah,
that's scary
so
too.
It kind of works as like a barometer for the scene and for where the character's mental state is at that exact moment. Where is he laughing? Is he crying? Does he think it's funny? Or is he out of control? Not even in like a bad way, just like he truly can't control what his body is doing right now. You know what I mean? I found that to be an interesting kind of game to play throughout the movie of what does this laugh in this specific scene mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good point. I think it's pretty obvious scene to scene, and without going into spoilers, like, you know, this scene's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. It's him on the bus with the mom and the kid, and he starts laughing. That seems quite obvious that he is nervous, and that's what introduces us to that little... He's got a little card. I don't think it's a spoiler either. It's a little card that he gives to people when he starts laughing, and it's like, hey, I have a condition.
That was a nice touch, too, both from, like, just, like, kind of, like, as a little snapshot of what a day in this guy's life would be like, and as well as just literally from a narrative perspective, like him, like, he's done his part to try to endear himself to the people around him who are inclined to not give him the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
So, are there any more notes that we could say pre-spoiler before we lift the veil?
I have a funny story.
What do you got?
Funny story about how I saw this movie that's not spoiler related. So, I asked my brother. He didn't want to see it. I tried to go see it. I couldn't get anybody to go with me to see this movie. So I went by myself in a black shirt, sat all the way in the back of the auditorium.
Jesus.
Oh,
man.
I just felt like people thought I was going to pull something out during the movie.
Yeah. You get up and I'm fine, guys.
Hey guys, you know, I got there right on time too, so the lights were like down. I felt so bad about it, but I was like, I gotta, you know, that's not going to stop me from seeing this movie. People think that
we got lucky. My brother was off from work the day that we went to see this, so we picked a time that was like middle of the day where it shouldn't have been that busy. The two of us went together because I've said on the show I go to some of these movies on my own if I can't get someone to go see it with me. This was not one I was interested in going to see alone. It was also not one I was interested in going to see in a big crowd of people, and thankfully there was only maybe 10 total people in the theater when we went to see it. So the viewing experience for me was a little bit more ideal than yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least I was aware, but...
Oh my God, but what if you just started maniacally laughing in the back of the theater?
Here's the thing.
That's how you get shot.
I didn't want anybody to get out. I would sit close to the doors, not all the way in the back, so... I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
You guys never have me back on.
No, that's quite all right. Oh my! All right. With that, let us lift the veil. From here on out, we're going to be talking spoilers for Joker.
Spoilers.
All right. So I'm going to let you guys kind of run with this for a bit now. I want to hear what you hate.
I mean, he's so unrelatable. Like, at least in The Killing Joke, he's a guy who's trying to keep it together. He has a wife or a girlfriend or whatever, and everything falls apart, but he's competent. In this film, he's so incompetent. Nothing happens because he wants it to happen. It's all because life is interacting with him more so than he's interacting with life. And, you know, if you show me somebody who's mentally ill or crazy from the beginning of the film, and at the end of the film they're still mentally ill or crazy, that's just not character development. I could not vibe with him. I could not relate to him. I didn't get anything that was happening. Not my favorite part of the movie. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did a great job with what he was told on set, with Todd Phillips being like, do this thing. Hey, people think it's weird if you do this. Hey, just suck in your stomach and people see your ribs and it'll be weird. And it's just like, I mean, if you made him more of an everyman that just snaps or whatever, that would be better. But it's very clear through the whole movie that, I mean, he's just mentally ill. And even when they cut the funding and they take that away from him, they never go back to that. He's just as mentally ill as he ever was on the pills and off the pills. So, I mean, I my main take was if this was like a YouTube miniseries or if it was just vignettes that they released like 20 minutes, just them on the train and he shoots the guys and then him in the hospital and he drops the gun and him on the Murray Franklin show or whatever, like that would be really cool. But as a movie, there's just not enough there for me to enjoy.
Okay. Al?
So my main issue I don't want to get to just yet. But so we've been dancing around it, but I think we've kind of alluded to it, the fact that there's a clear issue of an unreliable narrator in this movie. And I'm okay with that being a main part of your movie if you're doing that as your whole thing. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting storytelling device. The problem is it's no longer interesting to me when you do it in such a heavy-handed way. Because it's like, they tee it up in the second scene. It's subtle at first, and then it gets so overt and heavy-handed and ham-handed. And that's kind of a microcosm of everything that they decide to like investigate in this movie. It's right in that first scene where he's with the social worker. At the end of it, she said, I asked you to keep a journal, and she goes, "Can I see your journal?" He goes, "Yeah, just so you know, I put some jokes in there. I told you I'm going to start a comedy career." And she's looking at it, and it's really dark and odd, and it looks like the ravings of a madman. Mm-hmm. And there's some bad jokes. Yeah, there's some pornography in there. There's some bad jokes in there. And she says, "Yeah, I don't think you told me about that." He goes, he says to her, "No, I know I told you that I was, pursuing." It's like, okay, here we go, unreliable narrator. And then the very next scene is him going home to his mom, and they sit down to watch the Murray Franklin show, and it goes into a full-on fantasy about him being on the Murray Franklin show. It's like, okay, we get it. You're doing an unreliable narrator thing. And then very shortly after that, he meets the Zazie Beetz character, whose name I don't even remember.
Sophie,
yeah. And so, by the next time you see her on screen, and every time after, it's so blatantly obvious that he's imagining all of that, because it's a classic case of she's never actually interacting with anyone else on screen other than him ever, and no one else reacts to her presence. Her daughter disappears completely from mention of in the movie. Like, they're just going out on the town all the time, and there's never a throwaway line about, "I'm so glad I could get a sitter," this and that. She's so into him out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. He's so funny all of a sudden. They do the thing during the comedy show where it cuts out to a flash of light. He hit horrendous to start. They do it reliably there, and then it cuts out in this flash of light, and then it's, oh my god, he was so amazing. It's like, guys, come on, please be more obvious that you're just pointing at this thing, hey, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this is all supposed to set up the two big main twists of the movie, so neither of them are twists at all.
No, it's choreographed, but the movie doesn't address it, so it's there.
You say the two main twists of the movie. I want you to say what those are.
The one that he imagined the relationship between him and her entirely. It's like I said, it's like they're beating you over the head with the fact that it's not actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
They do a whole flashback. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then after all that, they're like, "Oh, were you guys watching?" It's like the reveal of the Prestige, but the Prestige actually was hiding from you the whole time. And in this, they were never hiding it from you at all. It's there. This whole movie, it's like someone doing a bad stand-up routine, and at the end of every punchline, they're like, "Do you get it? Were you watching? Or were you listening? Did you get it? Did you get it?" And it's just so it was so infuriating. It's like, yes, I get it. You're doing the thing. Shush. Just show me the movie.
Please.
All right, so let me jump in here then. So there's a scene that stuck with me early on in the movie that I didn't quite understand why it was in there until I started thinking about it more afterwards. And this is what prompted me to start looking up some theories after the fact. Semi-early on, maybe the first act, there's a scene where it kind of cuts. It's a quick cut of him slamming his head against glass.
Mm-hmm.
You recall that?
When he was in an insane asylum.
Right. But he hasn't been in the insane asylum yet.
Well, he had already been under observation at some point in order to go see the social worker and then have received the medications for him having all different sorts of issues, apparently.
So the aesthetic of that scene, though, all the colors, the way that it's set up.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be in Arkham in the present day.
It is the same as what you're seeing at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I know.
So did any of that actually happen?
Yes, probably, because I think that shot was given to you in that way for two reasons. One, to introduce doubt, and two, for it to parallel to you from those beginnings, those ends. You know what I mean? So, it's parallel storytelling.
So I don't know. I understand that it wouldn't necessarily be. I could see not liking this as a solution or as an interpretation. I get it, but I like the idea that the entire thing is fabricated. Maybe there's pieces of it. Maybe there's pieces of truth in it. Like maybe key things that happened are truths that he's kind of letting slip, similar to Heath Ledger's Joker, where he's always telling a different story about how he got the scars. There might be some truth in some of them somewhere, but it's not really. It's just kind of him playing with the person's mind of the story he's telling, kind of manipulating the person, just being chaotic in general. Like he doesn't, not having, and that's true to the Joker character, and that makes me think that's what is happening.
I mean, he has the scar.
Sure.
In this, we don't know if he has scars or not. It could just all be made up. I mean, I didn't see any of that really, and what I'm talking about is like agency and the Joker making decisions and Joaquin Phoenix moving forward. He gets invited onto the Murray Franklin show, and that's why he gets spread as anarchy. Thomas Wayne politicizes his killing of Donald Trump's 3 sons. And that's what starts the clown riot. Even on the subway, when he takes the mask off the guy, he punches the cop, and that causes the shooting. Mm-hmm. So, from what I get in this movie, Arthur Fleck really does nothing. Everything happens to him, but at the end of the movie, he's still standing on an ambulance, and he has a big smile painted on his face. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
You're right. He's a passenger in his own story, and I hadn't really even thought about it too much.
That's if those scenes are real.
So the thing is,
sure,
based on what I've already just started outlining, and I have more, unfortunately, on all, not even just on this subject, on some other subjects. The problem is, so much of this movie is so heavy-handed and overtly done that while what you're saying did cross my mind, where it's a potential for like a Shutter Island type of did any of this ever happen, I think that's giving the script too much credit, unfortunately, because all the times where they're trying to say, did this happen or not? It's so heavy-handed that it's obvious that they're doing that I actually think that the narrative, from the perspective of like the structure of the narrative, is pretty linear. I don't think there was any sort of like Nolan-esque jumping from timelines. You know what I mean? This was a linear narrative from start to finish.
Even when you bring up him hitting his head on the jail cell or the Arkham State Asylum cell, I just assumed he was already institutionalized because the movie states that he was abused as a child and has a crazy mother.
And he was separated from his mother by the state. So that's what I'm saying. Those things are all overt and explicated in the movie.
I don't think they're not clearly stated.
They weren't clearly stated at the moment it happened, but it was explicated in all the files that he read.
It gets to that eventually. And I actually really like the Thomas Wayne stuff. I like the 1% stuff. Mm-hmm. I like the Donald Trump stuff. I mean, I think that actually makes some sense, but they never follow through on it.
Well, there is that stuff was interesting enough for like a snapshot of the current place and time and how this is culturally relevant from what it is, but it doesn't jive with the timeline that they're working on of 1970s and 80s.
It doesn't matter.
It matters a little bit.
I mean, it's a cartoon universe, and they can't make it 2019, and you know.
It's just weird because it's just conflating two separate things. Like although like in that time period there was he's drawing from real life events that were going on, but it was like race riots, and instead this is a like Occupy Wall Street 1% like overthrow eat the rich type of situation, which is a current day situation
of what actually happened in real life. You're right, but I mean it just presents it. It still uses Thomas Wayne, I think, in an effective way that he's a figure that stands in a way. I mean, that part makes sense to me.
No, in a vacuum, you're right. I agree. I actually liked. First I thought I was going to be irritated by the Wayne stuff until it became pretty obvious that they were setting it up for a is he or isn't he his child thing. Again, very overt and heavy-handed. But it is what it is. But that stuff was interesting enough. I agree. And the other twist with the whole thing with the mother, like it's obvious that this is something that. Not inherited from a genetic standpoint, but the mother suffered from psychotic breaks, and now he does as well. And that sort of thing has been kind of passed on psychologically from one to the next. Again, seemed pretty obvious that she was not telling the truth or was believing in an alternative truth to what had actually happened.
It could be, that's the thing though. A lot of the stuff, and this is what I had mentioned earlier, like, and it's okay to dislike this aspect of it, but a lot of the stuff is open for interpretation to the point
I don't think most of it is though. That's the problem.
Here's why.
As it was happening, literally. I was calling it out play by play as it was happening. So,
but you're supposed to because he's spoon feeding it to you, and that's kind of the point. It's not. I don't think it's real. I don't think any of it's real, and I think that it could be
do a better job.
What's that?
Then do a better job, like telling that to your audience. But if it's not in the movie,
that's fine. I'm not going to argue with that point. I agree with you
that's what makes or breaks the whole movie, though. I'm saying you can't say that it's all fabricated and he was spoon feeding it to you as a misdirection unless you execute the misdirection at the end of the movie. There's no ever execution of that. This is why I said this is a pretty literal like narrative structure from start to finish.
So you had mentioned, I mean, there's two ways to take the Thomas Wayne and Arthur's mother thing. There's the face value of she's crazy. And then there is the other approach that it was covered up by Thomas Wayne. Yeah,
this is my favorite theory. I think that it is Thomas Wayne's son.
I do like that too. I think that's a big twist that I can get behind of being like, whoa, like if you're gonna go like I assumed from the get go like it was not gonna be the case and that she was crazy, but thinking about it a little bit more, thinking about the way that Alfred kind of reacts to him.
Yeah, how does he know all that? Like, right. How does he know all that? Like, you're adopted.
Well, yeah, exactly. So Alfred's also, I mean, what is he? Ex whatever government official. Like he would have had the means to cover that up.
Yeah, but I also, well, like, from Gary's perspective, he's asking, how do you know that? It sounds like this wasn't a one-off thing. Like, she had to be institutionalized because she kept going at him saying, he's your son, he's your son, he's your son. If anyone was going to know about that, if someone was going to keep turning up to berate Thomas Wayne, Alfred would be the one to know about it, right? So there's a reason why he would know it. It's not really a jump to like figure out like why he would be up to date on the whole situation.
Maybe.
It's why he doesn't recognize him when he shows up, but then when he says, oh, like, my name's Arthur Fleck, and he's like, oh, Fleck, there we go.
Your mom's crazy.
But I kind of like to dive into that one a little bit and think about that of like him covering it up, because I like that Thomas Wayne in this movie is not the greatest guy, and he could clearly be much worse than is let on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool take. Again, it's not explained, and that's just one way to look at it, and I agree that does not make a good movie.
Well, I think in terms of this, it actually does give you evidence of both sides, as opposed to him just, he's the Joker, so who you can't trust him, it's a false narrative or whatever. Like, this actually gives you both sides, whereas there's flashbacks to her getting the paperwork and her being like, oh, I never adopted a kid. I don't know what you're talking about. And then even when it comes to, like, the abuse of her boyfriend or whatever, I mean, Thomas Wayne could have just paid somebody to, like, sit with them and abuse them in a room for how many hours. I think that's very believable.
I agree, except for one thing. With all the other things that were meant to be quote-unquote, which one is it? They gave you... Or if you're going to do that as a narrative technique, you have to introduce something, even if it's something that's unreliable. They don't actually introduce what the alternative storyline could have been. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, he had sex with her and he was the illegitimate father.
Yeah, but if you're going to do the thing with a flashback to him being in the hospital and smacking his head on the wall, if you're going to show flashbacks to her being interviewed and not remembering or having, like, the psychotic break, dissociative personality thing where she's not going to get it, like, you also have to have some sort of, like, even if it's like a silent, like the Christopher Nolan, very, very, very light spoilers for Memento, the scene where he's sitting in the chair in the black and white and they flash, you know, you have to have something like that to point to what it could have actually been. You have to get that, you know, it could be a quick silent flash to a little boy walking down the street and someone cracking him over with the baseball bat. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, maybe this isn't real. Without that, the only conclusion you can actually come to is that the Wayne side of the story, the side of the story that's written down on government files that were stolen from a government repository, that's the only true outcome you can determine from this in this situation.
Al, you're not getting it. He won't release his tax records.
That's fine, but in this movie, you know what I mean? Right. You have to have some...
I just think this is the best use of the false narrative where they actually at least gave you evidence of both sides, where like the mother said, look, I had sex with this guy. I know you're mad. There's a whole scene where he's mad at her because she tells him the truth. And
yeah, but I don't like how that starts getting into a whole literal he said, she said thing here. Is not great.
Okay.
That's the thing though. Like, that's why I say there's a lot of different ways to look at or interpret parts of the movie or the movie as a whole. I understand that does not make a great movie because I usually don't care for that. I think it's because of the subject matter that I'm more interested in it. Because
I could get on board with your perspective on this if, like I said, they have to introduce doubt into what the ultimate final, like, say is. And
okay, so here's
the final say can only go one way.
Here's my version of that. And the one that this is my version of how I see the movie and why I like it, because I'm choosing to see it this way, and I can be wrong, and that's fine. But this is what makes me like it. So there's an interesting thing that goes on throughout the movie where there are times when the character is clearly daydreaming, right?
Yes, that's what I was talking about before.
Right. There are not actual changes in visual cues. You just know it by the narration.
Yes.
That's interesting in itself.
It's actually not 100% true, though. There are some subtle changes in the narrative cues, which is why
it's not the only difference that I could really spot is how he speaks. He speaks a lot more clearly when he's clearly daydreaming,
which is a cue in itself.
Yeah, I know. I understand. But what
there's
I'm saying
also
is
there's some lighting things too. Like I said, with him when he looks out into the light with the comedy thing. I think they even might have like kind of slowed down like the frames and like cinematography or whatever, like the actual like when like some of the stuff when he's close up with her is like time seems to slow down a bit.
Sure, that's just I don't. That's a little bit inconsistent the way that happens and the scenes that it happens in. What I'm getting at though is and bear with me because this leads to something interesting that I found that I kind of want to go back and watch the movie and look for it. But so. Him telling I'm picturing this as him telling the story to that last person that we see in the hospital that he kills. This is like the Joker kind of manipulating this person by just kind of seeing what they can get them to believe, kind of just having fun telling a story. He likes to tell stories. He likes to do weird things and see how people react.
It's not in the movie.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Gary because this is what I was gonna say is there's never a time that they give to you that the narrative device is this someone recounting a story. And that's why I said why it breaks for me is that the literal narrative structure is of us following him from day 1 to day 50 or whatever it is. There's never a device that shows that this is someone recounting a story.
The only thing that I could say is that
there's no flashbacks
break.
and flash forwards.
There's the one flash of him. I do think there's something important to the flash of him hitting his head.
Yes, but it doesn't hold up to the idea of it being a narrated story from one person to the other.
Even if that was the point, the movie sabotages itself when he says, or what's so funny, and he's like, you wouldn't get it, and it just cuts to Bruce Wayne in an alley with his dead parents. Like, that's only there for Batman fans. That's not the point of the movie, is that he orphaned a kid. Doesn't even know that he orphaned a kid because he didn't shoot Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne. So, if you want to be as interpretive and broad with this movie, like, that's great. But even in Shutter Island or the stuff that, like, Scorsese has produced and stuff, at the end of the movie, it still gives you something to go on. And this movie just did not give me enough to go on.
This is the thing that happens with The Killing Joke, that this is the reason why I didn't actually, the first couple times I went through it, I wasn't a huge fan of it. Going through it again and reading a little bit closer at some of the dialogue, the things that he's saying, and some of the quote-unquote flashback scenes of him, it's very possible that none of that actually happened either in The Killing Joke. Al, I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but it's basically...
I'm familiar with the broad strokes of the story, but I've never read or watched it.
Okay, so he's a stand-up... He's trying to be a stand-up comic. He quit his job at the chemical factory to do it. He's got a kid on the way, and he's not making any money, and he's freaking out, and he gets pulled into this job with some gangsters. Right before they pull off the job, he finds out that his wife died. It's very abrupt, and it actually doesn't make a ton of sense if you see why she dies. And then he starts to while they're trying to raid this chemical place, they get swarmed by the cops. He falls into the chemicals, becomes the Joker. That's how it happens in these flashbacks.
Yeah.
He has this awesome line about when he's chatting with Batman later on in the movie. I think I wrote it down here. Let me see if I can. And he said, "If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice." And if you look through that, the story they tell you of his quote unquote origin in that movie, there's a ton of holes in it. And it doesn't appear that it's very possible that none of that's true either. It's just kind of telling you this wacky story.
So that's what I'm saying, though, because what you're describing is someone clearly recounting a story to someone, and in no point in this movie does it ever feel like that's the narrative.
The story's not. That's the thing. The story's not recounted. It's just placed inside of the comic. It's not being told from any perspective.
But you said it's being done through flashbacks, though.
It's a different color scheme. It's not actually a flashback, and there's certain things that kind of line up to what's happening and mirror images of what's going on that triggers the advancement of that previous narrative. But
that's fine, but that's what I'm saying is that is a device that is clearly showing to you this is someone telling a story, whether it be internal monologue, whether it be one person telling someone like to whatever, like it is a device that's showing to you. It's again like the Memento thing where it's the situation that's going on in color versus black and white. You know what I mean? It's a framing device that's showing to you that this is someone recounting a story to himself, to someone else, to whatever. It is a device that is pointing to you the fact that this is someone recounting, and then it's up to you to decide whether the person is narrating reliably or unreliably.
Yeah, I mean, The Killing Joke is good because it's The Killing Joke. Like, if we got just that version of it on screen, I would still be happier with that. I mean, on top of, like, the narrative problem, Arthur Fleck, like I said, is not relatable because he's very clearly just a mentally ill person. The Joker that we get in The Killing Joke is just a loser. Like, if he was just a beat-down loser or whatever who snaps one day, wide audience can still, like, relate with that better than someone who, like, has a laughing disorder or can't even hold a job as a clown because he gets beat up by kids for no reason. There just wasn't enough there for me, really, to go on narratively and in terms of him in character development.
That's fair. I think you're both making very fair points. Like I said at the beginning of this, I think the point that I had to be very clear up front was when I finally sat down to watch the movie, I wanted to like it, and I think I found ways to like it. And I don't think I don't think that I'm right, but I found a way to enjoy the movie myself, and I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think that some of the reasons why you said you're trying to find it is like looking for these alternative things is because when you peel back the layers and just look at what the script actually provides to you, there isn't the substance that allows you to dive into it. So you have to find reasons to look for things. You know what I'm saying?
Standalone, the movie is very flawed, but the movie isn't standalone, and that's. I think it's not, though, because the Joker is built on years and years of a character that's been established 100 different times. There's a history there.
Yeah, but the thing is, if maybe you haven't been following because you've been out of town for the last couple of weeks, Todd Phillips has repeatedly, adamantly stated that he's not making a Joker movie. He's making a movie that he co-opted to become the Joker because that's the only way he could get it made. He's repeatedly stated that. Which means that...
I think the real false narrator... He's repeatedly said, I wanted to make the specific quote was like, I just wanted to make a really good fucking movie, and this is the only way you could get it made. They shoehorned in Batman mythology to make this movie. What an asshole!
It's like Zack Snyder making a Superman movie and not understanding Superman. It's the same situation.
DC, that's DC for you, man. Hey, you know what? I didn't love Far From Home. It's not my favorite Spider-Man movie. It's probably in the middle for me, but I had a much better time at Far From Home than Joker.
Well, it would be tough to have
I would hope so.
I was saying, it'd be tough to have a good time because this is like a super depressing movie, but it's also by design. And I actually, I had a hard time like getting through it from that perspective because the movie just depressed me. And it makes it like a tough watch, but I'm not actually going to kill it for that because I believe that was intentional. When you consider like the subject matter of a mentally handicapped person who just dealing with just platters and platters of shit served to him throughout his whole life, you don't have to like it. You shouldn't like it probably. Like actually enjoy it, quote unquote. Like you're not like having a good time at the movies watching this movie. Yeah. But I understand that that's the case, so I can accept that, and I'm not dinging this movie because of that in any way, shape, or form. But it is a factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because you don't know Heath Ledger's backstory for sure, and you do see Jack Nicholson's backstory, and Jared Leto exists, I guess, if you want. But I mean, even when Jared Leto is like really lame because he's trying so hard. Joaquin Phoenix is not trying at all, and he's just as lame in my opinion. Like, the Joker is not cool. The Joker is not cool in this movie. Like, people wanted to dress up like Heath Ledger. People wanted to dress up like Jack Nicholson and be like, yeah, I'm the Joker, baby.
Mm-hmm.
But, like...
Is that you, Sugar Puffs?
at no point in this movie is, like, Joaquin Phoenix cool, or would you ever want to like reiterate what he does?
So yeah, I think you're right. And then to kind of circle back to Al's point about the quotes and the interviews, whatever, with Todd Phillips, the core part of him, like the depressing part of the story, like the depressing version of the story, like just as it is as a mentally ill person dealing with all this and like all of this craziness in his mind. That's the movie that he was making. The end caps that I'm choosing to accept as that turn him into the Joker, I think is the piece that shoehorns like the Batman aspect around it. That is, I mean, that part of it works for me like that. There's a particular Joker comic that I have where he really is just a very dark psychopath. Not as the cackling is not like in a lot of the Joker, in a lot of the comics and a lot of like the cartoon stuff. Like there's scenes where the Joker, you like the character as crazy and terrible as he is, right? He's kind of fun. He's entertaining, at least on screen a lot of times.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Exactly. But there's really dark versions like that are like that are very like almost like a
the
horror
one where he
movie.
cuts his face off or whatever. Death in the Family.
There's one particular one I have of I don't remember. I think it's like just called like Arkham Asylum, like the games, but not based on that. But it's like it kind of starts off where he's standing outside the hole and he's got a nurse and he's holding her like with scissors, I think, to her throat, and like having a conversation and almost casually like just decides to kill her, like as part of it, like just to see what's next, like that creepy horror aspect of his like chaos and not knowing what he's going to do because not even he knows what he's going to do. Like that's interesting, and I could see that being a piece of him telling the story just to kind of see where it goes, maybe see if he can convince this lady, and then he kills her. Like it's just wacky. Like he's crazy, and that made me like fit this movie into what I think about the Joker and how I kind of always liked that character, or I found that character interesting, and it fits in that sense. But I agree with a lot of the points that you guys are making, and standalone, I don't think it's that great. But I've got too much context from other things that make me enjoy it a little bit more.
I mean, yeah, I listen to the reviews. I like the Weekly Planet Pod or Jeremy Johns or Watch Mojo or whatever. That doesn't mean it's in the movie. Like, you can be like, this leads to that, leads to this.
Sure.
Because you saw this, that means that. But
sure.
Yeah, that's the issue. That's the issue I'm having with your perspective as well. Is I think you're projecting onto it your own reverence for the character and the stories surrounding him in a way that Todd Phillips very clearly did not.
Could see that. I wish I could see that version of that.
So did I, because, well, let's talk about a sequence of the movie that I actually really, really did like, and it was like, because like as soon as I was done watching the movie, I was like, fuck, man, if that was the whole movie, I would have been totally in the way that you are. The sequence from right after he takes the call from Murray Franklin's booking agent and is going to go on the show. The scene until shortly after he sits down with Murray and is beginning the intro, that 30 minutes of movie was so compelling. It was really, really good. Yeah. And if they had kept that energy with the whole movie, I would have loved this movie, because I was riveted for that half hour. It's from where he sits down, he starts putting on the makeup, he's running through his lines, he's practicing the thing where he's going to deliver his joke, and then he's going to shoot himself. The two guys show up at the apartment, he kills Randall, that whole thing. He starts leaving, the cops chase him, he gets on the train, all that sort of stuff. He gets to the show, is in the makeup room, and then does the intro, sits down, starts making his first couple of jokes. I was riveted for that half hour. It was really good. But so much of the other crap brought it all down.
Yeah, if it was just like a mini series of like 10 to 15 minute clips and they released it over a time, like, sure, that would be awesome. But, there's just not enough there in between the really cool clips. Also, can we talk about Thomas Wayne going to the theater in the middle of a giant protest where people want to kill him?
I mean that did feel like real life.
That's just the worst Batman origin I've ever... Like, why, if you were just a rational person, why would you go out during a giant riot that started because you called all poor people clowns?
I mean, especially when you consider that you have a gigantic estate that's like an hour by train away from all of the danger. You are actively choosing to enter the lion's den unprotected.
Like, one guy got there. He was able to put his fingers in your son's mouth.
It's true, but the one guy you could deal with, it's the guy, the murderous clown who's actually going to murder you. Yeah, no, why is he putting his hands in his mouth? It's not. That's not okay. That's not okay. So the movie, I feel like the movie took itself so seriously, like almost start to finish, and like at times it worked. Like the whole sequence in Arkham was pretty compelling too, and that's where it's like we're dead serious drama right now, and like him reading the file and starting to play back those things and like looking at them from a different perspective. It's like, okay, that's some interesting stuff. You're right, this does need to be handled deftly and with seriousness, but the best scenes in this movie were ones with levity, even if it's absolute pitch black comedy, which is what like the best moments in the whole thing. When he gets fired when he's in the phone booth and he's trying to explain and like make a joke about having the gun and it's part of my act. Like, it's dark comedy. When he kills Randall with the scissor, and then in the immediate aftermath, the other guy whose name I forgot, which is pissing me off, and I am trying to...
It was
Gary, that's right. When Gary is freaking out in the corner, of course Gary remembers that it's Gary. Gary is freaking out in the corner, and he just sits down, and he's like, No, I'm not gonna kill you. I mean, sure, I just stabbed the shit out of that dude with the scissor, but I'm not gonna kill you.
Well,
go ahead and leave.
If he had more agency and he made more decisions like throughout the movie, I'd be like, yeah, I get what this person's doing. But
well, that was one of the few times where it was the case. You're right, like that he makes the choice in that moment. He wasn't forced into that. It's him finally finding his footing in this world, and he attacks it with vigor, and it was shocking and gruesome to watch, and it's done, and then they start playing it for incredibly dark laughs, right, where he goes to leave, and he's like jumping to get the lock and can't get the lock.
Oh my God,
and it's like,
horrible.
I shouldn't laugh at this right now, but you are, because it is the thing we talk about all the time on the show, right? It's the pressure release valve for the super tense thing that you need to laugh to, like, reset your focus. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, it's okay to laugh, even though it's really not okay to laugh at this. And then, hey, I need your help. And he goes, oh, okay. And he's like, boo, as he's walking by, right? He's like, no, go ahead, get out of here.
Little kiss on the crazy head, kid. That's great. That was so Joker.
Yeah, he gives him a little kiss on his head, and he comes and opens the thing, and they do pull back for a second. They do get really serious right there. He goes, you were the only one who was ever nice to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know what? That
makes sense.
Compelling character development. That's compelling narrative choices. It's gruesome tenseness that's then deflated with like black comedy. That was really good.
There were only three, I think, three scenes that really felt Jokery to me. That was one of them.
That's what it is. That's the only one that felt like the Joker.
The second would be just the Scooby-Doo ending, like of him running in the distance back and forth while people are chasing him. And the third is when he's fired and he clears out his locker, and he punches, and he's laughing. He punches the thing and he crosses out like the whatever the sign said. Like that was very Joker.
Don't smile. Yeah, I forgot to punch out.
Yeah.
Those were great.
Yes, those were the little times. You're right, where it's like, oh, this kind of feels like something Joker related, and that's why I said this is a Joker character grafted onto an entirely separate movie for the purposes of getting the movie made by DC. And it's what excludes it from being an actual Joker movie, which kind of defeats the purpose for me, is I guess been my point.
Yeah, it's just a sick man dance. I mean, they could have done so much more. An easy fix before we wrap up here would just be that if you did a flashback at the end instead of him dancing out of the hospital or whatever, just to show that like it was really his plan the whole time or something, like he planted all the clown masks, or, you know, he just did something to actually cause, you know, all of the destruction and mayhem that he actually does, or maybe he killed some other people that were on, like, Murray Franklin's guest list, so he bumped himself up or something.
Mm-hmm.
That actually would have been interesting.
You know, that would have been interesting, but the film does nothing with that. And if you want to interpret that it does more than it does, that's fine. But as someone who sat in a theater, in a seat, and watched it from start to finish, I just need something. I need a little kibble. Something.
Sure.
I need a little kibble.
I think, and that's totally fair. And like I said, if it wasn't a Joker, and I understand what you're saying, Al, about the way the movie is grafted onto the Joker so that it worked. If this wasn't a Joker movie, I would completely agree with you, and I probably wouldn't have cared for it as much. But it is a Joker movie, and I am going to use that context.
Yeah, but you're passing down like the genetic, like the DNA of all of those stories, and like in the way that like learned behaviors are passed down from like dogs or wolves. And this was just a Trojan horse that's slapped on a wolf face and is pretending to be one.
maybe those middle portions of the movie, sure, but there's somebody else that was added as a writer. Like somebody worked to this in. There are ways to make it. There's ways to look at it, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm saying that that's how I'm looking at it, is with the Batman, with the Batman history. The movie, regardless of what you say, this is a Joker movie. It's Joker is the name of the movie. It's based on that character. It's in Gotham City. The Waynes are there. Other characters are there. This is in that universe, so it does have the context. Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about all that, though, is as much as I loved that whole sequence leading up to him being on the Murray Franklin show and him getting onto it, I actually really liked the way that, they play the music and he comes through and he does this whole dance routine, completely different than the routine he was practicing that was aping the one that he saw.
And then kisses the lady.
Yeah, he kisses the lady, which like in a non-violent way was very Joker, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I said I really loved that like half hour of the movie. And he sits down, and I can't remember the specifics of how the conversation went, but he starts doing some like anti-jokes, and then he starts breaking out some of the jokes, and like that was all good. And then the point where he finally starts to bare his teeth, right? And he sits down, it completely shattered the illusion that was created for the past half hour that I was really enjoying. Because at that point, it's not Joaquin Phoenix, and it's not Arthur Fleck, and it's not the Joker anymore talking to you. It's Todd Phillips who's talking to you right then and there. And he he chooses that opportunity to throw a temper tantrum, and it ruins the ending of the movie. And really retroactively ruins most of the rest of the movie in addition to it. What's that, Gary?
No, I mean, yes, you're probably right. I still like the setup of him, like the classic Joker setup where he does something on live TV and now he's in control.
Yeah, but the problem is the specific words that he starts using. I don't remember the whole screed that he goes on.
They're all very specific. They're his own problem. So his thing is he has no bigger message. He just wishes his life was better.
Yeah. Well, the other thing was there's a specific line in there that struck me because I've heard Todd Phillips himself say this in the last few years, before Joker was even on the map, really, at least from my own perspective. He's been bitching for years now that you can't do comedy anymore. And that's a specific line that Joker says in that sequence. It is a specific thing that Todd Phillips has talked about in recent years. Because you remember, he did Old School, and he did The Hangovers, and this and that. Yep. And he's one of these guys who's been bitching and moaning that you can't do comedy anymore because everyone gets too offended and triggered by it. And so this was his opportunity to throw a temper tantrum and take his ball and go home. And it pissed me off a little bit. Because, you know what? Make a better movie and people will fucking laugh. Because, you know what? This whole thing about comedy has to be edgy and it's just jokes, man. Sometimes it is, yeah, sure, totally. I love shit. I've laughed at blue jokes. Like, I'm not moralizing in that way, shape, or form. But comedy isn't about being edgy and being a dick and punching down at people. And the best comedians will all be out there and fucking tell you it. Look at someone like John Mulaney. He's one of the best comedians out there right now. He doesn't do any of that shit. Look at George Carlin 30 years ago was talking about that shit. This isn't new developments.
Even when
I don't have time for that shit.
Like shows that we're watching right now, named like, 8 or 9 comedies. That's not the problem. You're right.
Yeah, look at the only ones we're talking about: 30 Rock, Parks and Rec, The Office, Scrubs. That wasn't anything in any of those. Well, no, South Park has towed the line on that one, but it's not all of the stuff that they've done.
Sure, funny is funny. Yeah.
Like look at Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They took years and years laughing at all these people's expenses, but in the end, it was no, we were laughing at the idiot who's doing it. It was the Blazing Saddles model. You know what I mean? They did the Blazing Saddles model minus using the actual N-word all the time. And people don't even understand what that movie was about. It was never about using the N-word. It was about making fun of the idiots who think that is something that could be used to denigrate those people.
Yeah.
Comedy isn't about just dropping the N-word because it's funny and edgy and cool. You know what I'm saying? Or any of those variations on those themes. And so this sort of stuff at the end was just a temper tantrum to me. That I don't have time for it.
That's a good point. It definitely bothered me. The content of what you're talking about is upsetting, yes. I just like the tacked on the ending with him sitting in the therapist's office, and if that wasn't there, then, yeah, I mean, that takes away from some of the ambiguous things that people take away from the movie as a whole. So if it just kind of ended with him on the ambulance or whatever with a blood smile, or that's still a better visual and a better moment for everybody to walk out on, as opposed to I'm dancing and why are my feet bloody? What's going on here? I got away again, I guess, somehow.
You're right. That would be a better ending.
That's
with
really
them.
Funny, because if that was the way that the movie ended, I wouldn't have liked the movie.
Yeah, but it would have been a more fitting ending though to what had actually transpired the last 2 years, 2 hours.
Well, if it's all real.
Yeah, which is why I'm saying I don't love that tacked on thing, because it feels like they're tacking on the opportunity to read it in the way that you are. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because they didn't really tee that up at any point in the 2 hour plus runtime.
And it makes a little bit of sense that would be what's actually happening here. To your point of he had a movie he wanted to make, but had to put it in here because it does. The reason it works in here is because the way that is left up to interpretation is because you can make these wild assumptions that I'm making based on the history. But if you end the movie where at the blood smile, then I believe that it doesn't. Then at that point, if that's just how it is, then they completely miss the mark on the Joker. That's my problem with it.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you is if you look into what Phillips himself is saying, the director is saying, that's the only way I can interpret this movie. It's like Noah Aronofsky making the Noah movie a few years ago. He specifically said, "I'm coming out to make a movie to basically put the middle finger to the Bible." You know what I'm saying? And if that's the way you want to live your life, fine. I'm not going to judge you for that perspective of it. But if you're going to come in and be like an insurgent filmmaker, like I'm going to co-opt that story with my own personal beliefs, fine, but don't expect any of us to be impressed by it. You know what I'm saying? And it's what he did here. He came in and was like an insurgent and co-opted what the Joker is to tell the story he wanted to tell.
What me and Al, I think, are pretty much saying is that there's just not enough interpretive stuff on both sides for both of us to be happy. For your group of people that did like the movie and our group of people who didn't like the movie. And if there was just more of a middle ground or another flashback, or the Joker made more decisions based on what he was doing, based on what we saw even, if you want to say that the Joker he was in charge of it the whole time, he knew exactly what he was doing, that's fine. That's not what I see out.
Yeah, and to what Anthony's points have been of what he liked about this, or what proposed dualities in how you can interpret this sort of stuff. I considered those things during and after watching the movie, but there just isn't enough evidence on screen to support the duality model from my point of view.
Yeah, well, it almost seems like it's in order to make it a Joker movie, that has to be the truth, it to be the Joker. But to what you're saying about how he went about making the movie, it makes sense that he wouldn't actually dive fully into that and give you that explanation because he didn't want to. I get that. That's fine. I mean, that could be the case.
I guess this movie would have been better if they went all in on it being Joker or not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe a better filmmaker could have done it better. You're right.
It's possible.
Todd Phillips is not that guy. So.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's.
He made a competent film. Like, let's not. No,
that was the first thing I let off with.
Looked great. He gave Joaquin Phoenix really good direction based on what he wanted out of him. Mm-hmm. It's just not all there.
No, I cannot dispute any of that. It's what I let off with because it is the most overtly positive bit of this movie. Is it was very competently technically made, but I don't know. It just doesn't work. Even at the end when he does this, he has this whole screed about, it's society rejecting me and treating me like shit that's caused me to snap. Basically, that's his one guiding principle. Even though he said he has no guiding principles, but that isn't true.
Yeah,
the twist that you've decided to foist upon us is this whole thing about his mother and or indirectly and through her boyfriends or husband, whatever, directly abusing him is what's created this monster. You know what I'm saying? And that's to be pitied. And what he's chosen to become with himself, if it's basing it on the societal model, is not something to be pitied. Something to to mourn, sure, from a society's perspective, and if there was ever an attempt at a guiding principle of the movie, I suppose that's what it was. But they spent no time at it until they decided to just come out and say it at the end. So I don't know. I don't know what we're supposed to take away from this movie, really, is what it comes down to. It's a movie that seemed to have a lot of thoughts, but nothing to say about them.
Yeah.
So just for some fun tinfoil hat things that I dug up after after my theory. So like I went into after thinking like, oh, maybe the whole thing is just him telling a story. I started to go down a rabbit hole of content to see what people have like dug up on this, right? And there's just a couple of things that really resonated with me that I thought were really interesting. One of which that was the most interesting, I wanted to go back and rewatch it and look for, is during what I would assume to be him telling this story to the psychiatrist. Anytime there's a clock, the time is 11:11. Just a silly thing, but it makes it feel like a fabrication. The other thing is there's numerous times where he's been doing dances that I thought were interesting, and it's clear that he's hearing the music, and it's almost as if he's remembering it that way. That's what I thought was funny about that.
While you're on that, 1 second, because I saw something really funny the other day. Someone said, "Can we get this movie but remade from the perspective of the two detectives?"
Yes.
Because it all culminates with that scene with them at the top of the stairs looking at him, and if you're seeing it from their perspective, it's just silent and him dancing elaborately.
He's just dancing,
and they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" I think that was in the exit survey on The Ringer when they had seen the movie and talked about it. Well, I can't remember who said it, but it might have been Miles Surrey, I think.
That's great. And the one of the last things was just his suit. He gets this probably semi-expensive suit. Can't really explain it. And maybe he killed somebody and got it. Maybe he stole some money. Who knows? There's no explanation. He just has it. And just like becoming like dressed up in this way and then doing that dance. It all just seems like he's starting to lose it as he's telling the story and just kind of having fun with it in his jokery way. If that's the case.
The suit's not cheap. You ought to know. You paid for it.
You paid for it.
Actually, that is the one thing that wasn't an absolutely overt like homage to Scorsese stuff was the shot at the end when he's in the cop car is absolutely an homage to the Ledger Joker, where he's sitting and leaning with his head against and the camera is right outside the window looking at him as he's leaning outside at the edge of the cop car. I remember thinking at it at the time. I was like, you know what? That reminds me of that. And then Ben Lyons, who does a lot of movie stuff, he was on the Levitard show the other day, and he said it, and I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who felt that way about it. That makes more sense.
Nice. Well, this has been fun. I really I enjoy when we do an episode and we're not all on the same page.
I'm sorry if it seemed like me and Gary were ganging up on you. We basically didn't actually discuss any of the content of our arguments. We purposely.
We wish the movie was better. We wish we felt
totally
like
fine.
we did.
I did. When as soon as we're done, I was like, oh man, I could see how I would have liked this if they had just they'd taken some of the elements that they chose to do and they just did them differently or better. Like I said, that half hour was really, really good. And if you could have found a way to make a 2-hour movie that kept that energy, I would have loved it.
And I liked the movie for a lot of reasons that are probably not real. So I totally accept that.
Okay, I was saying, are you feeling more hesitant about that now after having talked to the two of us?
No, I still think that I'm taking away from it what I'm taking away from it. I'm going to continue to appreciate the movie. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to like it. I'm probably going to see it a few more times.
Because nine feels strong for someone who ultimately ended up accepting or agreeing with a lot of the.
No, that's fine. The 9 is strong is there because of just my love of this universe and just what it could be. But I agree with you. I should probably knock a point or two off because it's not actually that way. It's what I'm getting out of it is based on interpretation.
What I'm saying is that seems like a high mark for someone who ultimately, if not agreed with, at least accepted a lot of the things that the holes that we were poking into it. Because ultimately, I think I texted back to you that I had it as like a 6.5 because, like I said, it's not like it's like a dog shit movie that's like just made poorly. It's just like it just misfires a lot. You know what I mean? Like I said, it is really a quality production.
Sure.
I don't even think it misfires. I think at points it doesn't even fire at all.
All right. Well, any closing thoughts on Joker?
No, I think I've had
question.
Yeah, hit us.
Okay, so not the Batman, Robert Pattinson, 2020 or 2021 or whatever, but the Batman Returns, 2023. Would you guys want to see Joaquin Phoenix come back and have them just tie it? Yes.
No.
No. Okay. All right.
No, the movie that they made doesn't work if you want to make it a part of a larger Batman universe.
Because it's all there. I mean, and then the Batman's going to be in the 90s or whatever.
Oh, is it? I actually hadn't heard that was the case.
If they really, really wanted to, they could do it.
Yeah, I don't think that this take on this character... I think it works as a one-shot like this.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to work, it works like this.
Like in that universe, we're going to get another Joker. Like if that movie does well.
But if that's the case, it's going to be more down the line, I would imagine.
Okay, all right. Just asking.
If you're giving yourself years of separation, you can justify... Hell, we had 3 Spider-Mans in, like...
True.
Like real calendar time, we had 3 Spider-Mans in, like, 6 years. So, like, you can do it. It's just... You just need some time and space. Like, hell, we had this movie 2 years after Suicide Squad, so...
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was the Birds of Prey trailer that played before this that was not good.
The funny thing is,
Ewan McGregor, Black Mask. We've never gotten Black Mask. And you know what? Say what you want about Harley Quinn. She's funny. None of these Jokers are ever funny. And Harley Quinn's funny.
No, I think that the accent that she's using is like, she really feels like the cartoon version of Harley Quinn, which I think is really cool. I just don't, I didn't get anything out of that trailer of what this movie is going to be.
What about Mary Elizabeth Winstead? Come on.
I mean, I'm a fan of her personally, but
sure.
It remains to be seen about this role.
I think the movie is going to be, I worry that it's going to be as much of a garbage fire as Suicide Squad.
I mean, probably not, just for having competent people involved.
It can't be.
I don't know. They're making another one.
Shazam was good. Shazam was great. I love Shazam.
Shazam was really good. That was fun.
You remember Shazam?
I do. It wasn't that long ago. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, but I don't actually remember anything about the movie.
What about Steel?
I just remember it was... What?
I said, what about Steel?
No.
We should do Steel one day. That's all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthesix@spinchoon.com or tweet us at the Spinchoon. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
And I'm Gary Gurecki.
Thanks for coming out.